Good evening, everybody. I'm going to call the July 10th, 2024 Planning Board meeting to order. Could we please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And it looks like we have a full gamut of members here, so we have a quorum.
We got 8 voting members, so Mr. Chair, that is more than a quorum.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, sir. All right, we're going to start with administrative board work. We do have the approval of minutes. I'm looking for a motion to approve the meeting minutes from June 26, 2024.
Mr. Chair, I will move that we approve and adopt the minutes of June 26th.
Yep.
It's my own writing, folks, not my eyesight. 2024.
And Mr. Chair, I'd like to thank the staff for making the change that I requested prior to today's meeting, so thank you to the staff.
Fantastic. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain.
One abstention from Mr. Faber, and the chair votes in the affirmative. The meeting minutes for June 26, 2024 have been approved. All right, we have regional impact determinations. Mr. Trottier, do we have any?
I don't believe that Kelly had any in the package. Kelly, am I correct?
None this evening.
Fantastic. We have discussions with town staff. John, do you have anything?
The only thing, I'm going to try to do my best at operating this, but at times I am electronically challenged.
Computer illiterate?
Computer illiterate, computer challenge, whatever you want to call it.
Not a problem.
Bear with me.
Not a problem. Kelly?
Just acknowledging that I'm on Zoom, and I will reserve my other comments for our work session about the master plan.
Thank you. Sylvia?
No comments, thank you.
Fantastic. Has everybody had an introduction to Sylvia? We all know Sylvia at
Yes.
this point, right? Fantastic.
But, Mr. Chair, for the people on TV and the people in the room, could you identify the mystery voice that's coming
Oh,
over
sure. Absolutely. So on Zoom, we have our Director of Economic Development, Kelly Karen. All right. So, anything from the board?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I got 2 things, and this is our request from staff, which I had requested, I think, about 2 months ago. One was a list of plans that have been signed since January 1st of 2024. That used to be on our website. It's one of the things that has gone. And the other is a presentation, maybe in 2 months, or maybe August or early September. Residential growth over the past 10 years, which I want to have include the 6 months of 2024. This will definitely help us with the master planning effort, so we have specific numbers on what our rate of growth is. And I'm really looking for a 10-year moving average. That gives us more information and a better handle. But it'll be the number of building units, single-family, duplex, condo, apartments. So that's basically it. Numbers I have gotten in the past, I've gotten from the Office of Planning and Development and Southern New Hampshire Planning. So it should be easily access those numbers, and they can put that together for us. It'll be greatly appreciated, and it'll be greatly appreciated, I know, by our master planning efforts.
Absolutely. Fantastic. So if we,
Mr. Chair, could I just ask that be put in writing to staff?
Yeah.
Email?
absolutely.
It
If
can
you
be
could send
done.
an email.
Thank you.
Very,
very
very
much.
easy.
Thank you very much.
Sometimes emails get lost, so I just want to make sure. So we do it several ways of communication.
Absolutely. So we've got a bit on the agenda tonight. We've got some new plans. We've got other business, and then we have our old business. I am going to switch up the agenda a little bit tonight, so we can get through some of our steering committee applicants as well as our Southern New Hampshire planning applicants. I would also like to talk on new plans before we get going here. I am looking to continue both hearings for the time being, so that the planning board staff has a little bit more time to review the documentation that was given to us yesterday. I'd like to get that out of the way from the get-go, so that way we don't have applicants waiting around. So I'll start with the first one. I'm looking for a motion to continue the public hearing on an application for a rezoning request to rezone 42 Ash Street, map 10, lot 45, from AR1 to Woodmont Commons PUD to Industrial 1. Pillsbury Realty Development LLC is the owner, and TC Boston Development Incorporated is the applicant.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we continue
I have a motion from Art.
that plan to.
I would like to do August 7th.
August
Correct.
7th.
Correct. I have a motion from Art. Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
I have a second from Lynn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? And the chair votes in the affirmative. The public hearing on an application for a rezoning request to rezone 42 Ash Street, map 10, lot 45, from AR1, Agricultural Residential and Woodmont Commons PUD to Industrial 1. Pillsbury Realty Development LLC is the owner, and TC Boston Development Incorporated is the applicant, to August the 7th, 2024, and this would be your only notice. I do apologize, folks, on behalf of the town of Londonderry and the planning board, but we do feel like we need a little bit more time. I'm sure that we will be able to hear you on the 7th. So thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Sure.
just as from staff's perspective, I'm in complete disagreement with this continuance.
Yep, that's fine. And from the planning board perspective, we're in disagreement with what the amount of time we've been given to review these applications. So that's absolutely fine. I'm also looking for a motion to continue a public hearing on an application for formal review of a lot line adjustment to adjust the lot line between two parcels, number 37 Stonehenge Road, map 12, lot 124-13, and 41 Stonehenge Road, map 12, lot 123, zoned AR1. Thomas J. Sensabella and Shauna Den are the owners, and Promise Land Survey LLC is the applicant. I have a motion.
Mr. Chair, I will move that we continue that particular site plan
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
until August 7th, 2024.
Fantastic.
I'll second that,
I have a
Mr.
motion.
Chair.
I have a second from Lynn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Chair votes in the affirmative. This application for a formal review of a lot line adjustment to adjust the lot line between two parcels, 37 Stonehenge Road, map 12, lot 124-13, and 41 Stonehenge Road, map 12, lot 123, zoned AR1, agricultural residential. Thomas J. Sensabella and Shauna Den are the owners, with Promise Land Survey LLC as the applicant. And again, I apologize, sir, but we look forward to hearing from you on August the 7th. Thank you very much. Before we get into our old business with waste management, I would like to start with our interviews of applications for the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission, as well as the Master Plan Steering Committee. And I have one open position. We have two applicants, Ray Breslin and Patrick Treatham. Ray, I would ask you to come up first. Actually, Ray, I know you already had your interview. Would you like to come up again, or are you okay?
I think I'm okay.
Fantastic.
You know who I am and what I'm interested in.
Absolutely.
Wait a minute. Hold on.
Come on up, Ray. If you could introduce yourself.
Ray Breslin, 3 Gary Drive. I did apply back in February, I think, on this, and, there was a lot to look at. We have other applicants, and which is fine. But I look forward to stepping up and participating in this. I do go to the meetings when I can anyway. And so I think it's very important to pay attention to these things. There's a lot of things that Southern New Hampshire Planning does that can be of great assistance to the town, and they do, which I certainly appreciate. But I think it's important to pay attention to all that's going on with traffic, with highways, with water safety, with rail trails, all of that is very important. I think just recently, Southern New Hampshire put out something in regards to citizens' input. Also very important. We need to listen to the citizens. We need to listen to what their concerns are and take full advantage of what Southern New Hampshire planning can do to assist us. If we ask, I'm sure they'll be willing to assist in a lot of things. If there's a cost, that should be looked at, and if it's reasonable in doing it, the town should participate. So, you know what my concerns are? Water, sewer, public safety in regards to traffic, all of which has an impact on the town. I guess, did you have public comment earlier? I got here a little bit late.
No, we unfortunately, as a planning board, we don't allow just public comment. We have public comment on every public hearing that we have. So we will be having a hearing on waste management shortly, and there will be public comment provided then.
Okay, fine. And there was something mentioned, and I know you continued those applicants.
Yes.
But there was something mentioned about regional impact.
Yep.
And some of these really big ones that border on other towns, I'm a little confused why that wouldn't be regional impact. But you don't have to answer that.
There's a specific,
Set of guidelines.
guidelines that determine that.
Yeah.
And that's set up by Southern New Hampshire Planning and also by statute.
Very good.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Ray.
Anybody got any questions?
I was just going to ask, what skills do you bring, Ray, for Southern New Hampshire?
That's a good question.
Be specific,
That's a
please.
good question. Okay, so I don't have any degrees, but I don't know if you know what my background is. I worked on emergency generators. I traveled around the country, starting up new generators at nuclear plants. Further, I went to Panama, Honduras, and so forth. And so I've had a lot of experience in the real world. As far as any degrees and so forth, I don't have that. Some others do, and if you feel there's others that are more qualified, that's fine too. But I'm willing to participate. I'm willing to put my time in as necessary, and thank you for allowing me to speak.
That's good, Ray.
Thank you very
And-
much,
and
Ray.
Thank you for stepping up.
I appreciate it, sir. Up next, I have Patrick Cheatham. Could state your name and address for the board, please.
Sure. Mr. Chair, members of the board, good evening. My name is Patrick Cheatham, and I reside at 79 Stonehenge Road.
Hi, Patrick.
Good evening.
So, before we get too into it, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? What do you do?
Sure. By way of background, I'm a lifelong Grand Estater, having resided my entire life not only in New Hampshire but in southern New Hampshire. And I've served our community for the last 21 years, 11 months, and 5 days as a police officer with your police department, our police department, and I currently command our airport division, so I serve at the Manchester-Boston Regional Airport. Prior to my service at the airport, I was a captain in our service division for 5 years, and amongst other things, I had the responsibility of representing the department for site plan reviews for all major projects and minor projects and things that come before your board, members of town leadership appointed and elected. And that's kind of where my passion got started for trying to be more involved in not only our community, but the planning and the future of our community. It's no surprise that anyone before me or in front of me or behind me or listening at home or Miss Karen in outer space, that our community has been in tremendous growth over the last 20 years, let alone the last 2. And having a front row seat to many of these projects as a police captain, as a police lieutenant, and so on and so forth, I've always been very, very impressed by the level of organization, planning, and vetting that goes into every one of these projects, many of which never came to fruition. And that's because the community, yourselves included, take to heart what it is that comes before you. And I'd like to participate in that in a different way. I'm only recently a town resident. I've lived in other communities in southern New Hampshire, but I've been a town resident for the last year and a half or so. And the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission is a way for me to maybe give back and represent our community on a regional level. I think I'd be an effective communicator to not only the board, but with the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission, and could be an effective nexus to sharing information back and forth. I pledge that I have the time, energy, and effort, and I think that I would represent our community exceptionally well, and also on the way back, representing the commission well with all of you.
Thank you very much. Does the board have any questions? Mr. D?
So, Mr. Cheatham, so the fact that you are heading up the airport division of our police department, tell me how you think that will help or hurt you as a part of the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission. We know it's a regional airport, but if you could help me out with that.
Sure. I'm not privy to any special information from airport leadership in regards to special projects that they're working on. And while I'm a member of the overall airport security and safety leadership team, we're very much there's a clear division between law enforcement services and airport leadership, and that's not a negative thing in any way, shape, or form. How is it? I don't believe that it's either a hindrance or a tremendous benefit, just as my role currently at the airport. I don't see it as a conflict of interest. But I'm happy to expand on that answer. Other than that, I drive in every day, and today the New Balance put their big sign up. I've been waiting because I saw that they had to put an application. I didn't know that you couldn't have more than a 100-square-foot sign in Londonderry. I'm glad that whoever approved that allowed, because it's a beautiful sign that shows, that's a benchmark. That's a source of pride, I think, for our community. And I drive by there every single day. I even pick up the cones when they kick over in the street, even though I'm not on detail or anything along those lines. So, I'm happy to expand upon that answer if you don't feel that.
It's fine. Thank you. I appreciate your answer.
Thank you. Giovanni, I think you put your hand up.
Yeah, Mr. Cheatham, so you were involved in part of the design review committee for this part of the staff in terms of the police section of it?
Sir, I don't know that if I was per se a member of the committee, but what would happen was planning department, either Mr. Trottier or formerly Colleen would send, or even Mrs. Gandia would send over information and say, fire department, police department, DPW, any objections, anything we should know about? Do you think there's a traffic issue, a safety issue? And for the most part, my comments were no objections, no comments. So while I think that my I don't even call it a report, it was a form that I filled out, were taken to heart I don't know that I was part of a vote or on a committee that would allow or disallow.
But you had input on it. You get to see all the site plans. Does that,
Yes,
you think that must bring some credits to your resume in terms of what you're applying for, right?
I really had to understand what an engineering and architectural design plan looked like, because while I still have 20/20 vision, I really had to zoom in on a lot of those things. And that's, I just find it very interesting. And this is something new to me, sort of. I have a passion for it, but I have a little bit of experience. Maybe more than some, less than others. But you're right, sir. I've reviewed probably over 100 sets of designs, anything from a gas station to a lot line change to a housing development to a bank that wanted to go into our community, and just trying to really understand how does that affect us, traffic, safety, and other things along those lines.
Okay, thank you.
Fantastic. Anything else from the board? Ann?
I also noticed that you checked off Manchester Airport Authority. Are there any openings on that currently? Does anybody know?
When I communicated with Ms. Holden, I was only I had checked off. I had interest in several different things, but I was only specifically asking for participation in Southern New Hampshire planning. So I don't believe I'm in consideration for that anymore.
Okay,
but
that's
I could
fine.
at least I'm not. If I am, someone's nominated me without me knowing. And
I see a check
Okay.
mark by it. That's why.
Sure.
I think of the
Okay,
math
thank you.
thing is when you combine them all,
Yeah.
it equals Southern New Hampshire planning.
Yeah.
I'm just saying because
Oh, thank you.
actually Southern New Hampshire planning is not even on this form, so.
just
trying to make that.
and
Just trying to make sense
and just
of
by
that.
way of education, and again, for what it's worth, I have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from St. Anselm College. Our community supported me through 2 master's programs at Southern New Hampshire University. I have an MBA and also a Master's of Science in Criminal Justice. I've taught online for Southern New Hampshire University for the last 8 years. And then recently, I sought a online certificate in project management from Cornell University. I'm proud to say I completed that last month.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Wow.
Mr. Jim, I have one
Yeah.
question. So from a very macro level, what do you hope to gain from understanding the other communities that participate in the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission? Like, what do you hope to bring back to Londonderry, bring back to your expertise, and such?
Well, I think our community is unique in many respects, right? We've seen explosive growth in our I don't want to say explosive and use the improper adjectives, but we've seen growth in our population. Our business community has grown significantly. I'd call that explosive growth. And you know, just read any headline, Google Londonderry, Google, you know, or whatever your search engine is. And Londonderry is looked as a leader in not only law enforcement, being the police officer that I am and having been responsible for training for 6 years. We're a leader in most of what we do. I firmly believe that. People looked at Londonderry to say, what's going on there that we can bring to our communities? And I also think other communities like Candia and Litchfield and smaller towns like that, they don't have what we have, and that's not their fault, right? But by virtue of our geographic location, having an airport, we have 2 major exits off of I-93. We have opportunities that they don't. And I think that hearing from their perspective about how the building in our area maybe affects them, Litchfield, I don't mean to pick on Litchfield. It's a wonderful community, and many people, many of our staff live in Litchfield, right? But you know, obviously what we do here can have an impact on them. And so I think that hearing from their perspectives, I attended, so many meetings with DOT on Exit 4 and Exit 4A. And we all know, we've been talking about that for 30 years, well before I was a police officer here. And having input from all stakeholders, I think, is critically important, and just understanding other people's perspectives. And that's the whole point of Southern Hampshire Planning, right? And why we have these regional planning commissions across our entire state.
Thank you very much, sir. Jason, I saw your hand.
First off, I grew up in Litchfield, so you can keep referencing it. That's fine.
It's a great community. It really is.
Yeah.
We should annex it. I'm sorry, wait, what?
Sorry, what'd you say? So, as part of the airport, I'm assuming you work with other towns, or at least liaison with other towns or whatever. Can you explain what your interaction is with any of the other towns inside of the Planning Commission?
Sure. I think one of the assets that I bring to any committee or organization are the personal and professional relationships I've developed over my near 22-year law enforcement career. I've been a bagpiper in the New Hampshire Police Pipes and Drums. I've marched in our Old Home Day Parade since 2005. I have a network of law enforcement resources, state, local, county, and federal, that just by virtue of who I am and what I do, I've developed. Colonel Mark Hall of the New Hampshire State Police worked 3rd shift as a trooper, SP 209, had a K-9. I was a midnight sergeant, and I can tell you right now, we went to fights at Whippersnappers together. He's now Colonel of the New Hampshire State Police. Chief Al Aldenberg was a Goffstown police officer when I first met him, and Chief Kim Bernard's brother Kevin and I went to the police academy together, and I first met Al at Kevin's bachelor party. And I'm not going to tell you where that was, some 22, 23 years ago. And I consider Chief Aldenberg... It was not. But I've had the pleasure of knowing Chief Aldenberg and seeing him, grow in his career. And I consider him to be one of the top leaders in New Hampshire law enforcement, and also in the Massachusetts Army National Guard. And I believe he serves in New Hampshire, but don't quote me on that to be sure. So the principal 2 agencies with whom we work on a weekly basis are the Manchester Police Department and the New Hampshire State Police, but we routinely have a liaison.
All right. Sean, do you have anything? You all set, sir?
No, I'm all set.
Fantastic. Mr. Cheatham, thank you.
Yeah, I was going to ask a Ray's question, but you've already answered it, so it's superfluous now. But Southern New Hampshire Planning is really concerned a lot with highway planning, and is working with we take a lot of information from the state of New Hampshire Department of Transportation and the feds. A lot of the regulations are set by the feds. A lot of acronyms that are used that you'll eventually learn. But Sylvia and her staff are extremely capable of putting it all together. So.
I I can express to you there's no shortage of acronyms at the Manchester Airport or from the FAA or federal law enforcement. At the airport, we're called LEOs, which is not something down here. It's not Leo, the lion goes grr. It's Leo is law enforcement officer, and that's just a universal federal term. And I'm sure there's some onboarding that I will require, but not to sing my own virtues, but I appear to be a quick study in many things, and I don't feel that as a challenge or an impediment to my ability to join the commission.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it.
Appreciate your this opportunity, and if anyone has any questions offline or whatever the proper mechanism is, I'm happy to go through the chair to answer those questions.
Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. So those are our two applicants for the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission. I am looking to see what the board would like to do.
Well, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
We'll make a motion. We'll see where it goes. The motion is that we make a recommendation to the town council of Patrick Cheatham as alternate position on the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a second from Mr. Varani. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions?
I'm abstaining.
Thank you very much. Please note that Lynn Wiles abstained, and the chair votes in the affirmative. Thank you very much. Patrick, I'm sure you'll be hearing from the town council soon. Fantastic. Thank you.
Southern New Hampshire meets once a month. It is on the fourth Tuesday, 11:30. There's usually pizza, which tends to bring people in. So you're certainly welcome. And the location is corner of was it Amory and Amory Street. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chair?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to thank Ray as well.
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
putting himself forward on that.
Absolutely. And, Ray, you're very involved in the town as it is. I know you're on the Utilities Committee, and you're also, I believe you're now involved with the Lions Hall, correct? So I would have to echo his comments of thank you very much, Ray, for everything you continue to do for the town, sir. We appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to seeing a new face. Master Plan Steering Committee. Speaking of Ray Breslin, you're the first up. Mr. Vice Chair, I do have to go to the bathroom, so I'm going to let you handle this for a moment.
Okay, Ray. I think we got a good background that you have given us.
Okay, wait a minute. Ray Breslin, 3 Gary Drive.
Yes.
Okay, so I think we pretty much know my story, my background. But in regards to the master plan, the town's master plan, extremely important. It doesn't, it's not a document that we have to follow word by word, but it is a guiding document along with zoning, which are the two documents that planning should use as a guide. And we have a 2013 master plan. Here we are in 2014. We are now working on an update of the master plan, which is certainly a step in the right direction. By the way, I was a member of the 2013 Master Plan Implementation Committee, and then pretty much that was taken over by the Planning Department, but the Planning Department is extremely busy with all they have, and so there were some really important things in the 2013 master plan that were recommendations, and I think that's kind of where we're at. I would like to be included as a private citizen, as a volunteer. I think the town staff and the boards are those that need to do the work and make the final decisions on these things. but I also think it's important that the general public have input about their town. And so, as a private citizen, as a taxpayer, I would like to be included in some of that meeting decisions. I'll let the planning board and others that have perhaps far more experience than I do make the final recommendations to the town council and to move that along. So
Yeah, this is a function of the planning board entirely, Ray.
well, yes, but does not the a member have to be approved by the town council?
No.
No, just by the planning board?
This is a planning board subcommittee.
Oh, okay. I thought you made a recommendation and then.
No, the only one we make a recommendation for is Southern New Hampshire Planning, and that's, we follow the statute there.
I see.
Where the planning board makes a recommendation to the town council appoints. The steering committee is a function of the planning board. The steering committee is a creation of the planning board.
Sure.
So the planning board does the appointing. That's it.
Okay, fine.
A question, Mr. Assistant Chair?
Yes,
Has a
Tony.
question. So Ray, this is the current master plan that you rightfully said was 2013. I assume that you've seen it and read through it. What would you change about what's in this master plan? What would you do different?
I think initially you have to look at the first part of the master plan as to what the town's vision is. Okay, now that was 2013, and perhaps a lot has changed in that period of time. But that is the vision of the citizens of Londonderry and the town. Now, as far as what needs to be changed, well, that's a topic of a discussion. But if you look at the back of the master plan, where specific recommendations were made back in the day, 2013, some of those things have been implemented, some of them have not. But I think we have to look at what are the priorities that are now impacting the town in this day and age. And one of those, or some of them, are water, sewer, traffic, and other impacts from development that put further impact on the departments, police, fire, DPW, schools. And so I think we have to not throw the 2013 master plan away and say there's nothing in there that was good. There's a lot that's good in there. However, we have to look at 2014, 2024, 2025, and forward for the next 10 years. And what decisions have to be made there? What impacts that are we going to have to deal with? Infrastructure, water, sewer, roads, all of that. Not to mention...
Thank you. It was a great answer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Vice Chair.
Anyone, Jeff?
Yeah, so Ray, I think you've probably covered most of this, but I do want to kind of hone you in on this specifically. What specific experience or expertise do you have that will be uniquely beneficial to the Master Planning Steering Committee, and how do you plan to apply it to support this committee's goal?
Okay, well, I've already told you probably what my experience is, and there may be others that have better experience. That's fine. But I think I have something that is perhaps in some cases in general society lacking, and that is common sense. When you look at something, you need to look at, what is it going to cost? What is the impact on the taxpayer? Everything costs money. Where's the money coming from? How is it going to be budgeted? Are we going to put all of this impact on the taxpayer, or are there other sources? As we know, there are, and which we should take full advantage of. So, when you're looking at something, a project, you have to figure how much it's going to cost, where's the money coming from, and how long is it going to take, and what else is going to impact. If you're going to dig up roads to put in pipes for water, sewer, that's going to affect the roadway. It's going to affect traffic. It's going to affect a lot of things. Safety, not to mention cost. So I think when I look at something, I look at it like, where do we need to start with something? Where are we going to start, and what is our vision, our end point? How long is it going to take? Is it going to take 10 years? Is it going to take 1 year, 2 years, 3 years? That's why we need a vision, and that's why we need a master plan that we can, it's not going to tell us we have to follow everything that's in there, but the really important things, we need to pull out and say, these are the things we need to address.
I think we've got other
agree,
questions
Ray.
here
Thank
too,
you.
Ray.
Thank you, Ray.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The vision definitely is important.
Any other questions?
Any other? I do have one. What are your aspirations for Londonderry's future?
My aspirations for Londonderry's future. That's a good one. Okay. You know what my concerns are? My concerns are the future.
We want you to look.
What do you
want you to look ahead, Ray?
Oh, what am I looking at?
What do you see 10 years from now for Londonderry?
I think we have a lot of things that we have to address. You pretty much know what my real concerns are, and that is water and sewer. And we have made some good steps in that direction. We are working with Southern New Hampshire Planning, and I think that should be a major focus, and that is my concern. But the future is the young people. What are we doing for the young people to make sure that they have a town that they want to live in and they want to come back to? So that is my concern. You know, look, I'm old. It's not about me. It's about the decisions we make today that are going to impact the future generations, the kids in high school, elementary school. So that's my concern, and I want to participate as necessary to make sure that we get this done. I'm not going to make the decisions. I might make some recommendations, and if somebody thinks what I say makes sense, let's move forward on it. If not, if somebody's got a better idea, that's fine. We have these discussions, and then we come to a point where we're going to actually get the job done. And I hope you don't think I'm criticizing anyone. I appreciate
Not at
what
all,
everybody does here. You folks all step up. You're putting your time in, and I appreciate it. The staff, all the work that they do. I mean, this is how we get stuff done. But we do need a guide moving forward, and we do need to look at what the priorities are and move forward.
Thank you very much, Ray.
Thank you.
I appreciate it, and I'm sorry I had to step out for a few minutes, Ray. Thank you very much.
Can I ask one question?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Breslin, how long have you lived in town? I'm just curious.
Since 1972.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah. How many years is that? Where are we at?
52.
Huh?
52.
52.
52.
Damn. Thank
You
you.
want to know how long I've been married? 54.
That's awesome. That is incredible, Ray.
Thanks, thanks.
Congratulations,
That is
Ray.
incredible.
That's the best move I ever made.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Up next, I do believe they've withdrawn their application. Andrea Kojakariu. I'm so sorry if I said that wrong. I do believe they withdrew their application, but I just want to confirm. Okay. Up next, we have Suzanne Daniels. How are you?
I'm good. How about yourself?
Good. If you could state your name and address, please.
Okay, Suzanne Daniels. I'm at 4 Black Forest Circle, and that's Londonderry. Recently moved here just about a little over a year ago. Do have roots to the New England area, though. So I actually lived in Andover, Massachusetts for about 16 years. And while residing there, I would work with, I have a defense background with companies, the major defense companies. And BAE Systems was, at the time, being acquired. It was Sanders back then, and why Lockheed bought it, which then turned it over to BAE Systems. So I have both been with the Lockheed Martin entities and then BAE Systems, both in the Hudson and Nashua areas. So very familiar with this area. My son went to, as a graduate of St. Anselm's as well. So, you know, we're just up the border as we were. So I was looking at the, when we moved back here just last year, it was more of a sudden move coming. I was coming to the culminax of my career, and when I had left the larger businesses of the defense arena, I went in and started with a small business and just took it on for the purpose of having it acquired, and it was acquired earlier than expected. So having a son back here in Wyndham, we decided it was time to come back and do that route here. So being semi-retired, I have that ability to now give some time to where it's needed. I always have had interest, and I've always dabbled with elements of town councils, political councils, while working in Washington, D.C., not a lobbyist by trade, but I also learned all of the acclimates that go with being and how to deal with the Congress and how to work with that. So there's a balance in between my knowledge of business development is my background, with strategic planning was the focus, but then I would say rounding out the portfolio by making sure that I had the operations elements, finance, and all of the other elements that go with running a business. So with that last acclimation, I went in and took a small business, set it up for acquisition, stayed with it a few months, and then turned it over to private equity. So when I looked at the coming here to the town, it happened to move into a 55-plus community. That in itself has some interesting challenges in
Community
terms of
inside of a community.
a community inside of a community. And I do sit on the board of that element as well, so I decided to get on the board there. And
Is that Hickory Woods or Cross Farm?
It's Hickory Woods.
Hickory Woods. Thank
yeah.
you.
So it's a great residence, you know, but it's a mindset that people have to deal with when they make a change like that. So everything about any type of strategic planning, strategic growth involves change, and change is a hard thing to accept. So there's always a balance there. So seeing that this was an opportunity to see if I could bring my skills and utilize them to offer them to the community is why I stepped up and put my application in for the steering committee. And I figured it was a stepping stone that I eventually, since I will be here for a long time, look to move up into other positions. I would start with this one because this would allow me the aspects of not only I did start perusing the 400-page plus your planning committee from 2013. It actually is a very well-written, very encompassed document that I think, you know, you're going to look at your elements that were positive and those that were negative, what sustainment we can continue to go with. And so, like I said, looking at it as a stepping stone, see how I can further embed into the community and bring those elements that I believe I can offer and see where we can go with that. So can I answer any questions?
Fantastic. Thank you. Board, do we have any questions? Mr. Rugg.
I have one. It's about what do you see as your aspirations for Londonderry's future?
So when I look at Londonderry's future, Londonderry, and I'm going to give this as a balance, I see that we need to make, growth needs to come to Londonderry, but growth needs to be, is it more of a bedroom community where we want to bring the growth in, we want to bring value and resources during the day and make sure that people go home at night and the community can sustain itself. But I see my vision probably more is to integrate the younger people and their visions of what they believe. I mean, it's younger people have really interesting aspects today that I have sometimes a hard time seeing, sometimes I agree with. But we also need to bring that balance of what community is. What is a town, and what is the principles and values that you want to adhere to? And so what I would like to see sustained is the community, a tight community, Londonderry, very resourceful, very lucrative, a place that attracts the young people to come live here, but it's a balance of everything where it's not a change involved. So it offers a multitude of elements that the younger people, the older people all blend together, and that we just keep it as a town aspect versus, I've lived in many cities. I'd still like to see it as a town aspect of it versus crossing over into a city aspect of it, if that makes sense or if I need to explain that a little more.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Jeff, I think you had a question.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for applying. Much appreciated. Can you discuss a project that you've been involved in that required extensive community engagement and how it prepared and how you think that project's going to prepare you for a role on the master plan steering committee?
Sure. So I'd probably give you my most recent one. So went into believe it or not, I was stepped into, it was a machine shop. Now this machine shop that we worked was right embedded into a neighborhood. But the machine shop was there first, 62 years in the community. So the neighborhood itself had a hard time with, we needed the growth of the company to come, and with that required political aspects. It involved doing community work to do it. It involved going out and reaching elements like we needed to help restructure the bus route because we needed employees. So what did we need to do? We needed to go into the city, get the bus route rerouted so that we could bring people who couldn't drive but could come to our facility to work. So the community, you have the balance of those that if you can imagine a machine shop, the noise it invokes. We had to work really well with those communities. So it meant going to the town level, the state level, and then blending the people and keeping them happy so that you didn't get into arguments constantly over you're doing this, you're doing that. It was very well held together, I will say. We took the forthright, we were always ahead of the step, a step ahead of everything, and made sure that we were addressing all the concerns of the community while we wouldn't always give in, but you always find a balance. There's always two sides to every coin, and you just find the balance to it.
Thank you very much. I'd have to agree with that. There's a lot of, I say it often, what's fair and reasonable. So thank you. I saw a hand go up here first.
You said you've been in town for a year and a half?
Mm-hmm.
Well, welcome to the town.
Thank you.
What perspective do you think your newness to the town brings? Like, what coming in as somebody from outside
Right.
and pretty much immediately jumping into a huge project?
To hearing whatever it is, right.
Exactly.
Because you have a lot of embedded thought, and there's a lot of embedded terms and everything that wants to do. So a talent, I'll call it a talent of mine, is the compromisable element of it, of being able to absorb what everyone is saying, but also being able to put it in realistic terms where I call it a lot, I do it with my children, making them understand not this is the highway, this is my way or the highway anymore, but let's balance and let's talk about so that it's a good perception of being able to understand where everybody's point of view is coming from. So I will tell you, I have probably gotten a big earful just coming into my community alone. Yeah, everything under the sun.
Sure.
And it requires just a demeanor where you can stand back and be able to listen to what's being said, but make the ultimate right decision based on what needs to be done. And in all my years of working, I always found it was communication. Communicating right, wrong, or indifferent. But I found that when we never communicated properly, people will make up what they want to do because they need information. And if they don't have information, we get too much hearsay. So I hear a lot of that. People in my immediate community who don't know certain things or don't know what's really going on, make up stuff because they want to say something. So bringing that balance and that unbiasedness into it, I think is now a benefit.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sean, I saw your hand up.
So what experience do you have in municipal planning, zoning? Do you have any experience that would apply to some things that would go into a master plan?
You know, I was thinking about this the other day, and I remember going back to teaching junior achievement. And I don't remember if any of you remember when we taught junior achievement to the students in schools. And it was all about setting up a municipality and planning it. So my day-to-day activity with it is not from that element of it. It's more of the educational level of it, of making and teaching it and bringing it to students about what a town is all about, what a municipality really means. And we don't teach junior achievement anymore. It's a shame because I would watch the children, how they enjoy it. So limited aspects there, but I don't believe it's much of a challenge in terms of I could take that on.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. I saw somebody over here, Giovanni.
Yeah. Thank you for applying. Could you give me 2 items that you would like to see changed or improved upon in the new master plan?
In the master plan? Okay, so I would have to tell you, probably not specifically. I have perused the plan and looked at it, but I would have to tell you that I would have to study it a little bit more. I'd have to study it a lot more to really go on it. Elements that I am familiar with from just hearsay is more the concern about water, and I really haven't seen much in the master plan, and maybe I haven't gotten to that part in the master plan about how we're handling the water and the amount of water that's available. But that is if I were to bring a voice from just being here a year and a half, that's a serious concern that I hear picking up. So unfortunately, I can't give you an in-depth answer to your question.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else from the board? Thank you very much for coming up,
Thanks.
and we really appreciate you applying.
And like
Thank
I said,
you.
if it doesn't work this time, there'll always be more. Thanks.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
your time.
Next up, we have Russ Legoo. How you doing, sir?
Good.
Did I say that right?
Legueux, yes.
Legueux. Legueux.
Russ Legueux, right, French-Canadian.
Good evening, sir. If you could give us your name and address.
Yeah, Russ Legueux, number 2 Fiddler's Ridge Road.
Fantastic. And the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. My wife and I are New Hampshire natives, born and raised in New Hampshire. We've been marriage-long residents of Londonderry since we were married back in 1986, was when we first moved into town. I'm a professional engineer. Civil engineering is my background. I've worked in the environmental industry my entire career. The town of Londonderry actually was one of my clients when I had my business here in town. Sanborn Road, which is now the elderly, I spent 12 years working on that site, cleaning that up to get that ready. The North Fire Station, both the former fire station on Old Mammoth as well as the new, were both contaminated sites that I was involved in cleaning up. And we also our company did a several-year-long environmental baseline study for the town, which kind of came out of back when the power plant up by the airport was first being sited and coming into town. There was some environmental, what would this do for the environment? So an environmental baseline committee was put up, and our firm provided a lot of services to sample air, water. We did noise studies, soil studies, you name it, throughout town, and we donated a lot of our services to do that. sold the company to a national firm some years back. I then went to work for the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services, where I was the subsection supervisor for the Oil Remediation and Compliance Bureau. Then I retired from that. I'm on my second full summer of not working, so I now am back to having some more time on my hands. Thanks. I'm volunteering, coaching at the middle school for cross country and track for the last few years as well. As far as my previous experience, and not probably recalls from a long time ago, I was
38 years ago.
I was pretty involved with the town at some points past. What I can remember being involved with is I was actually on the planning board from 1993 to 2000, and I also served as chair. I was on the police station building committee, which was like a 3-year stint. We finally got what is now the police station built. That's back before that they were working out of the old school facility. The Historic Properties Preservation Task Force, which was a 2006-2007 initiative. I was chair of that committee. That's basically where we documented, I want to say it was 146 or something, historical properties in town. And we had a workshop for the community to be involved with. And basically it was for historic properties, a lot of them were bonds. How do we, for the people that own them, that wanted to keep them, what incentives could the town do to help do that so they wouldn't just be demolished at some point? And we passed those recommendations on to the town after that effort. At one point in time, there's an energy efficiency committee, and I was involved with that, and that included working actually with some volunteer students on doing energy audits for all the town buildings. I was actually on the previous master plan, the 2013 master plan steering committee. I was involved with that effort as well. Back many years ago, there was a town manager search, and I was involved with that. And I also was a Londonderry Housing and Redevelopment Authority commissioner for several years. I kind of backed off from a lot of things I was doing because running the company and raising my child at the time, you know, you can just be pulled in so many directions. But like I said, that has all been done now. So I'm back to, besides golfing and doing projects around the house, I figured maybe I'll tiptoe back into doing some volunteer work for the town if there's some need. So.
Thank you very much, sir. Anything else from the board?
The only thing I would ask is what I've been asking everyone else is, what do you see as your aspirations for Londonderry's future?
Well, I gave that some thought myself. Back some years ago, back when the Levins were still running the orchard, the Woodmont Commons orchard, I was involved with and attended all the design charrettes that were part of that process, and it was very exciting to hear what the plans were. I would so one of the aspirations would be to see that vision that we had way back then actually come to be at what is now starting to take place at Woodmont Commons. And it's, you know, I just say, I hear a lot of people say that, you know, it's too bad there's not more restaurants in town, those kind of things. So what, you know, one of the aspirations is is there anything we can do to attract businesses to town that right now are saying we're not ready to go there yet, or we're going to go to some other facility. Not so much the industries and companies that are providing employees. We're doing okay with those. New Balance is a perfect example. But why does some of the design grocery stores, for instance, go to Bedford instead of Londonderry? You know, there's a reason for that. Or why do restaurants they're not ready to come in yet? And I'm always hearing people complain about there's not enough restaurants in town, those kind of things. So just, is there anything we can do that along that line? Also taking a look at housing. There's been discussions about 55 and older communities. I remember way back when I was on the planning boards when the Nevins came in as one of the first ones. Just assessing. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but just assessing. Do we need more 55 and older communities, or do we actually need more, or indoor? Do we need also more affordable housing for the younger folks in town, so they don't leave town? So there's a balance of young just a balance of the population across the board. So those are a couple of things that. So sustainable development as well, environmental sustainable development. Is there any way we can work design features into the master plan as guidelines for, just for environmentally, acceptable design standards, those kind of things, if they're not already in there. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. D.
So you know this inside and out.
No, I do not. It's been a long time since I've looked at it. I'm going to be candid with you, but I do recall putting a lot of sweat.
Yes, you do.
Yeah. I'm sure it will all come back very quickly.
So yes, I mean, you are deeply embedded in this. You don't. It's riding a bicycle. You don't forget. But so the question is, having been so involved in it back then and knowing what you knew then.
Yes.
This is now 2024. Knowing what you know now. What would you have done different?
Well, that's
what would you have done different? I
don't know if there's a way, and again, I'm not watching all the planning board minutes at home meetings at home like I once did. I'm not convinced, and I could be wrong, that document gets pulled off the shelf as much as it could be when we're
So just let's get it on the table. So the staff just did a study, and it was something like 85% of the items in this. I might be off a little bit, but it was somewhere around then. Were either completed, or didn't make sense anymore, and whatever happened happened.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else remembers the exact number, but it was something.
I think there was 85 recommendations, and we've done 60 of them.
Oh, great.
Whatever.
Okay. Well, that's good. Then it is
a pretty good number. Yeah.
Yeah. One of my notes on my thoughts for being on the committee was to assess what works well and what does not work well with the current edition. Basically, get up to speed like some of the other folks have mentioned.
There you go. I do have a follow-up if it's okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And so, your Woodmont Commons comment riddled me a little bit.
Okay.
That's a totally privately owned mass of land with its own zoning regulations, as you well know better than I do.
Yep.
How could you possibly then get involved in that, or have the town get involved in that, or the planning board, or anybody? It's 100% privately owned and controlled.
Right. But anything that happens there has to come before the town to be approved, right?
It
right?
does.
Yep.
It does.
So is there any? So basically, my question if I was on the committee, to myself and the committee would be: is there anything? And maybe the answer is no. But is there anything that we as the town can be doing to help bring in the kind of development that happens there, where the rest of the community is excited to have it happen? Because I go back to the design charrette, and the entire town was excited about, we're going to have a hospital, we're going to have hotels, we're going to have restaurants. If you live there or not, you can still be a customer there, or be, so.
Yeah, I got it.
That's what I meant by that.
That clarified it.
And and there's a down south in Salem. There's an excellent example of the whole community is
two totally separate management teams.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh no, I know. So I'm not saying that we want to do that. I'm just saying.
Thank you.
Let's do it our way, right?
Thank you. Anything else from the board?
I have a question.
Sure.
That list of historic properties, did it also include barns?
Yeah, barns would be the major focus on it.
I've used that. It also has a map associated with it, and you worked
John
on
Vogel
it with
did a very good job.
Vogel.
Yes, did a very good job with that.
2006, I think it was. I used it so many times. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, that was back in the Andre Guerin, Tim Thompson, John Vogel days.
Yep.
Thank you. Anything else from the board?
Just a really quick follow-up regarding, it's related to the historical list. When you were engaging community members, what were your lessons learned?
A lot of it was basically the big take-home message was financial. If I own a historic property, and I think the number we settled on was 75% of it. If I maintain 75% of it, what financial incentive is there to that to me because it costs money to keep a home historic, you know, or to keep it looking like a federal or traditional New England farm, you know. So it came down to lobby the state. It came down to lobby the state legislature to give people that own those properties some tax breaks.
I apologize. Great answer. What I was looking for actually, what was your lessons learned with engaging with the community? Like, yeah, sorry about that. Like, what did you learn from that experience?
The people that own, the vast majority of people that own those properties were very passionate about them. Lessons learned is that they were frustrated with their limited options on what they could do to save them.
To actually
basically.
preserve that property.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And how
if something happened to it, they complained about the current town regulations, and then there is some relaxation on what you can do with the historic properties, which they were happy about. I know with looking for a tax break, I think we had modeled some legislation after the one for the barns.
Right.
And David Colglazier and I went up to Concord to testify in support.
Right, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, and the committee loved it, but then once the assessor from the city of Portsmouth got up and said, well, we follow what you want, a third of the town would be, qualified for tax reduction. So that took care of it,
Yeah.
But I know we'd worked on it for another couple of years, and I think through 3 legislative sessions, and it still didn't make it out of committee, inexpedient to legislate. But there seemed to be a liking of the idea, generally, for it. So it's just the old devils in the details thing.
So maybe that could be a piece of the new master plan.
Yeah.
So.
And I know with past master plans we've had historic sections, and this one doesn't. So that's one of the things that I think we've been remiss on.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Anything else from the board? Fantastic. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate you applying.
Sure thing.
Thank you.
As someone who lives in an 1800s house, I'm all for the tax break.
I have a Christy Miner. Minier? Close. You could state your name and address, please.
Yes, my name's Christy Manera. I live at 18 Mayflower Drive.
Fantastic. The floor is yours.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate you having me here tonight. I saw the post and thought, you know what, let me see if I have the opportunity to give back to the local community and give some of my skills. I am an owner's rep right now, which means for an owner who is a major commercial construction building, they don't live in that environment, they hire me. I come on, I advise them, I build the team, whether it's the design team or the construction team, and then I stay on and advise them through the entire process. I can come on at the very beginning at the strategic planning level and then stay until they're owning, turned over the building, living in the building, loving the building. I can work on an independent campus. I can work with a single building entity. So when I work on an independent campus, community campus, it's generally a school campus. So when you work on those campuses, they have chapels, they have science buildings, dining, all of that, similar to like Pinkerton campus. So there is a master plan that gets developed and redeveloped again. Because as you go through life and you do twists and turns, COVID, for example, that turns the world upside down in the way that things happen, you have to reassess and you have to say, are we still headed in the same direction? If you've got 80% of the master plan that has been developed, where are we going from here? What's working well? What's not? So you sit as a group and you push and you pull and you find that balance that Suzanne had mentioned. It is all about balance. So I thought, let me see if I can help.
Thank you very much. Anything
You're welcome.
from the board?
I'll go with my stump question for everyone. I try to keep it equivalent.
Consistency is
What are
good.
your aspirations for Londonderry's future?
That's a fun one. The one thing that I learned, I have lived here 8 years now, going on 8 years. So I began at a time where we were a very tight-knit community, and if tragedies hit a single family, it was amazing the way that the community bonded together. And immediately you had the entire community at your support reaching out saying, what do you need? That is something I want to never change. So no matter how much we grow and no matter how much we bring in the outside to visit, I want to have that tight-knit community that stays in place. So however we find that balance is my aspiration for the town.
Thank you.
you.
You're welcome.
Anything else from Mr. D?
Yes, thank you for applying. Appreciate it, and you have a very interesting skill set. Did you have a chance to look at our master plan?
Not in depth.
But you knew there was one and
Yes,
you've seen it?
absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else from the board? Giovanni?
Yeah, I'm going to ask the same question I did before. What could you see changed or improved upon? Well, I guess you haven't seen the master plan, but that you'd like to see in the new master plan.
In the new master plan, I'd like to see just the study that it was hinted at by Art at the very beginning to have where are we sitting with housing right now, and then take a look at where are we going and what do we need. How do you find that balance between the housing and that local community and attracting people who are going to build that vibrant community with the balance of businesses to offset some of the stress that property taxes puts on the customer by bringing in good businesses that also build the community and are here to also support the community.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else from the board? Jason?
Thank you for applying.
You're welcome.
So with your work as master plans,
Mm-hmm.
do you often have to work with external organizations such as towns and
Absolutely.
localizations and regional as well?
Yes. I am in front of many towns, zoning, planning, historical, Concom, that kind of thing. So I'm very well affronted with those, and civil architects, all of the building and developers, yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Anything else from the board? Seeing none, thank you very much for coming up. We
You're very
appreciate
welcome.
you applying.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Up next, I have Robert Robichek. Did I get that one right? I got one right tonight.
I was kind of dozing off back there, but
you can state your name and address, please. Sir.
Bob Robichek, 13 Clover Lane, Londonderry.
The floor is yours.
So I was, listening to everybody's questions. So you probably saw my application, right? So I'm a licensed architect, 44 years of practice. I'm licensed in Mass, New Hampshire, and Maine. I am the principal civic studio leader for a large architectural firm here in New Hampshire. I do mostly public safety, police, fire, EMS, 911. I don't do residential, commercial, or housing. Really working right now with at least 9 communities: Portsmouth, Concord, Lincoln, Newbury, New London, Merrimack, Bedford, Tinsboro is in Mass, and a bunch of others. I've probably worked with over 20 communities in New Hampshire. Because of what I do, we're very involved in community outreach. We always say the voters don't know, they vote no. So we do a lot of warrant article work. I trademarked that saying, so don't use it. And the community outreach is huge. I have a bachelor's in architecture from U of I in Champaign-Urbana, a master's from Penn. I'm currently completing 3 weeks away a master's level class in CEPTED, which is crime prevention through environmental design, because I do mostly public safety. There's a lot of urban items in that plan in CEPTED, both neighborhood and community-based as well. I think that I've been in town. We bought a lot and built a house in 20 to 21. Prior to that, I was in Atkinson. And prior to that, I lived in the Midwest for 33 years before moving back here. So some of the other speakers said the same thing. I think I have a fresh set of eyes here. I see a lot of communities. I've done a lot of master planning. I've done probably over 18 charrettes in my career, both in the Midwest and here in New England. I've done master plans for a couple of different municipalities and towns. I think that the biggest issues that I've seen in this town, it's a great community. Obviously, we built a lot and built a house here, are what do we want to be when we grow up? I think the master plan that we did in 2013, I did read it, spent about 3 hours looking at it. A lot of beautiful drawings in there. As an architect, that looked really nice. I have to say that. What do you want to be when you grow up? And I think that some of the communities that I'm working with, I won't mention names, but they're not very far from here, have really seen explosive growth. Other people have mentioned that. And our growth has not been quite as explosive, but it's 28,000 plus. I think the master plan's at 32 or 34 at max build out or something, and we're short of that. But there's no particular order. Traffic, pedestrian. It's not a very pedestrian-friendly town. Not a lot of sidewalks, including the neighborhood that I bought a house in or built a house in. A cohesive vision. We're challenged by a very challenged geography in this town. We have 2 exits off of 93. I live in northeast corner Londonderry, by Poor Boys there. It's a whole different town than, for example, on exit 4, you know. It's all very different. And I think that how do you have a cohesive vision when you have a series of little centers that we have in town? And I think that's a real challenge. So geography. The other thing is the mix of residential ownership versus rental. We're building a lot of rental units. Another gentleman mentioned this, and I think the police captain mentioned this as well. When you have rental units, you bring a different population in, even if it's market rental. Puts a lot more stress on public safety, a lot more stress on the school. Somebody mentioned that, and that's a big issue. And I think the other thing is infrastructure that people have mentioned: utilities, water, sewer, things like that. So those are the things that cost a lot of money. And how we make that happen as we grow. How can we have a sustainable? You can't build a house on a bad foundation, right? So that's a big problem. And I think that's pretty much what I'm going to say. I think the master plan that we did really looked beautiful, and I'm not going to be critical or in any way of it. I've been in town 4 years. That's not my right to do so, but I think it has to be implementable, realistic, and measurable. So it has to be SMART goals. Anybody in business here probably knows SMART goals. They have to be provable. And I think, somebody mentioned that 60-some out of the 80-some initiatives were actually implemented, right? But I think that's the real measure of success, and I think it has to be realistic.
Thank you, sir. Anything else from the board?
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
Rob, thanks for applying.
Yeah.
Can you discuss a project that you've been involved in that required extensive community engagement and how it's preparing you for a role on the master plan steering committee?
So every project pretty much that I work on, because of the work that I do, involves a tremendous amount of community outreach. And I think what we have found in our business, because besides the 9-10 communities I mentioned that I'm working with right now, there's probably a couple more I didn't mention. I probably worked with another dozen in the past 9 years. Every community is different. They communicate differently, learn differently. Just like some people are visual learners, auditory learners. People learn different ways, they communicate different ways. So I think you have to reach out to the community in a variety of different ways. I think charrettes are great, but we have to get the word out. Now, some of the ways that we've done that was not only just televising things like charrettes, but also putting all the stuff on a website where people can see it, they can vote. We've done surveys, SurveyMonkey surveys where people can vote their preferences. We've done what we call the shopping list, where you put a series of plan options up and people take red and green and yellow dots and they go red is no, green is good. We do that a lot with building design and site design. So I think the communication of the vision is really important to get the buy-in. Otherwise, it becomes a plan stand or a doorstop. And in my business, that's probably the worst thing that can happen.
Thank you. Anything else from the board? Mr. D.
How did you, you've been around, how did you happen to pick Londonderry? What was the checklist you used that made Londonderry the winner?
I also forgot to mention I'm on zoning board. I forgot to mention that in town here. I was in Atkinson. I decided to move to Londonderry. I worked in Manchester in the Mill Yard. I'm an active skier and a race coach. I currently coach in McIntyre, but I was at Crotchet before. I like the town in terms of the proximity to 93. We're able to find a beautiful lot, in Lorton Commons. It's a beautiful, very sustainable green community, actually, the way it's laid out. And also like being close to a lot of retail commercial, even though in reality, the area that I live in doesn't really have it. I have to go to exit 4 to do that, But it's a great community and it's a growing community, and it was close to work and close to my coaching job, and it was a good location.
So it wasn't the apples?
I like the apples. Actually, my better half worked there for 1 year at a max.
But it was location.
Yeah, I think the orchards are great, and I think that in the master plan, in the very first few pages, the word rural comes up, rural. And I thought, I don't think of this town as rural. But then when you think about it, you have those beautiful orchards, and some other beautiful green areas. And I think that we have a split personality as a town. You have Nashua Road, and then you have that. So it's kind of like night and day, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you,
Oh,
sir.
you're
Anything
welcome.
else from the board?
I had my question answered, so.
Well, I kind of was listening, so I kind of
I know.
hope you don't mind.
Primed. No, that's all right. I was going to say, Londonderry is a large town that still thinks small town like.
Well, it's interesting you say that because I'm working with at least 5 communities right now. They say exactly what you said. Even Lincoln, New Hampshire, where we have a new police station being built as we speak, has grown tremendously. Their normal population is very small, but their influx of people for 6 months a year is huge. And same with Wolfboro, another community I work with. Portsmouth, of course, their population quadruples on a weekend in the summer. So a lot of places are feeling that. We're not unique, you know what I mean? So how you deal with it, that's a secret sauce.
Yes.
So
yes, that's been the difficulty.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anything else from the board?
Well, I eat 2 apples every day, so apples was a factor.
No, the orchards are awesome. I mean, they're really beautiful.
We are very fortunate to have.
Well, if no other questions, thank you. Like I said, I kind of was able to listen and know what you kind of wanted to know, so I didn't want to take the thunder away. I apologize if I did. So,
Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
applying, sir.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
You got it.
Mr. Wilson. Could state your name and address, and the floor is yours, sir.
John Wilson, Tranquil Drive in Londonderry.
Thank you.
I too moved here in 1972, and my wife and I have been married for 5 more years than that. So we've been around, and we have 5 children. They're all grown up, have their own children and careers, and are generally good people. My experience over the years has always had a planning content to it. I'm on the Senior Resource Committee, and I'm also a member of Region 8 RCC. That's for community transportation. My interests are seniors. There's kind of a reason for that. And transportation. And when I look back over the 2004 plan and the 2013 plan, both of those items are mentioned, but not very much. And I think that the housing situation across the board for seniors and for everybody is an issue in town, and transportation is a big issue. And mentioned earlier, I can't remember who it was, but somebody brought up the fact that the town is losing its young people. Okay. Back in 1972, when we were doing planning and we talked about the families in town, we used 2.3 kids for every house in town. Okay. Now I think that number is down to 1.6. So we're just not producing the young population.
I believe it's actually 0.17, not 1 point.
Oh.
0.17.
0.17?
0.17.
I stand corrected.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the last 20 years, well,
What?
actually more than 20 years, we've had a declining school population.
Yeah.
And I think it's statewide also.
And let's see what else I've done. Well, way back when, way back when, I was on the budget committee.
John and I were on the budget committee together in 1985.
Yeah. And I was on the I was on the building committee for the original building committee for the high school. Actually, I was on 2 building committees for the high school because I think it took 2 shots to get it built. But anyway, I've kind of, some point along the way, I joined everybody else that gets up at 7 o'clock in the morning, gets in my car and drives to work and comes back at 7 at night. And I did that for a very long time. My planning experience has been all business planning. My career is probably divided into two pieces. First half was startup companies and trying to turn companies around. And the second half was working for multinational companies. And every one of those jobs had a planning content. I am 110% believer in planning. Everything needs to be planned, and there's never been a position that I can think of where planning made it worse. So I believe in it. As far as being on this committee, I've never been on a building committee before, but I look at it in some ways, from my experience, it's kind of like a business plan. A business plan has essentially a vision, okay? That someone has a product, an idea, a service, and it has a vision that it's going to do all these wonderful things for society and the investors, okay? And when I come back, look at our plan that we're trying to do, it's the vision part of that, okay? And I was looking at the 2004 plan, and I was looking at the 2013 plan, trying to see how the similarities were in terms of what we were in the 2004 and 2013 plan. By the way, when the 2013 plan was done, that was just before I retired, and I spent the last 2 years in Texas, so I was gone for that whole process. It was done and over with by the time I came back. But anyway, I just have a lot of planning experience. Now, the question about where is Londonderry going, okay? First of all, I believe, and I've been here for a long time, that it was the best decision I ever made to move here. And I think Londonderry overall, there's always problems. We should have done this, we should have done that, and so on. But when I look back, I think overall the town, by nook or crook, in planning, to some degree, has done a pretty good job compared to a lot of places. We are poised, I think, to go into this next century we're in a good position. We're geographically, you couldn't be in a better place. We're at the intersection of all these highways. We have the airport in town. We have two sizable now industrial, commercial areas, and one of them is not built out. The question in my mind in terms of this plan is one of the things that is, I think, we need to take a really good look at. When I went through, by the way, I've got my 2013 plan. I look at it often. Mine's kind of scroungy by now, but it's been over the years. I looked at it every time something comes up that catches my attention. I look at it. But I think that we have to start thinking about where we are in the world relative to what's around us. I think that Manchester and Londonderry are now connected, okay? You can't even tell the difference when you drive up the road when you cross into it. So we are mainly a suburb of Manchester. To the west, we have Nashua. Now we have a two-town buffer between that, but as time goes by, that whole corridor across there, I think, is going to start building up. So the question is how do we do that? How do we go from where we are and get through that, but keep the character that we have now, which is remarkably good considering the industrial base that is basically on both sides of us. And one of the things that as I went through the 2004 plan and the 13 plan was, there are maps in there, and the maps depict where the green spaces are and where the houses, what's been built out. And you can see, especially if you go look at the progression over the years, that we're getting built out. And I think in the 2013 plan, I think we estimated that we were 80% built out, as I recall. Now that was before the Widmont building product and so on was going on. But what I would like to do, for example, was I would like to make some maps. And instead of a built-out map, I'd like to see a map for residential property, what's left. I'd like to see a map that only shows what's left. And I'd like to look on the commercial side, I like to see a map of what's left. And then think about what's done is done in a way. We've populated a big piece of the town, we built it up, and then look specifically at those areas and say, okay, now these are the places that are up for grabs. How should we look at those in terms of what we do? Is there anything in our land regulations and process that we should think about because of what's left in town? The other thing is, I think I would look at on the commercial side is a map that shows all of the properties that are built out, that are commercial, that are 35 years or older, because those properties over 35 years are coming to the end of their, quote, economic life, which means they are perhaps over the next cycle of 10 years or so, a lot of those buildings may be tore down and replaced or put to another use.
Redevelopment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It's happening in Derry a bit.
Yeah.
What?
It's kind of happening in Derry a little bit.
It just happened on Gilchrist Road.
Yeah.
It just
Yeah.
took the building down, putting up a
Chase
bank.
Bank going up is a redevelopment.
The economic life of a commercial building in theory is 39 and a half years. Okay, basically, you're done depreciating them, so they become somewhat of a not a cost factor in your calculations. But anyway, I think we can look at that because that gives us some idea of how things are going to change. Okay, maybe we can look at the buildings of being redone or what's tear down. And most of the buildings, every year that commercial buildings are built, their economic life is shorter because they're being put up. Let's put it this way: they're not the mill buildings in Manchester. Right? So we should look at those things. But I think that the town is in probably better shape than any of the towns around here in terms of what can happen. I worry sometimes about the build out up by the airport and perhaps over here because these warehouse buildings are nice buildings in terms of taxes. They don't require too much in services and so on. But they're at the whim of the global supply chain. And it's possible that, 10 years from now, Manchester Airport in this area here might not look like a place to have warehouses. And we don't want to get stuck with those buildings because those buildings are hard to convert to anything.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
So, any questions?
Board, do we have any questions? Mr. D.
I have a quick one. So, in one part of your testimony, for lack of a better term, you said you were here 50 years, but then you said you worked in Texas for 2 years, so I subtracted 2. So it was only, only 48.
Sure.
So I only did that to get it closer to me because I've been here 46. So that's the only reason why I subtracted 2 years. But my question is, I'll flip it around. We heard from someone from a relatively new resident in town why they came to town. My question to you is, after 50 years minus 2, what made you stay here? Why are you still here?
Well, it's a nice place to live.
There you go.
It's as simple as that.
And it's
Now,
not the
I,
apples.
by the way, while I was away for 2 years, I still paying taxes here because it's just a temporary.
I get it.
Anything else from the board?
Oh, he's
Oh,
still
I'm
on.
sorry,
Yeah.
Mr. Wilson.
I'd like to mention one more thing, and it came to me a week or two ago. I was up in Manchester on the west side, and I don't go there very often, but I was in the area just directly behind the hospital and so on. I don't know if you know that area. But right behind there, there's like what I would describe as mini parks. You know, the roads are around there, but you have not a big area, you know, maybe 7 or 8 times size of this room here. But, you know, the trees were in it, they had grass, benches to sit on and so on. And I've done a lot of travel around the world. And what you see in a lot of European cities and small towns and so for that matter is that they've been there for centuries and centuries compared to us. But early days, they started setting land aside for parks, small parks and so on. So a lot of the cities, you know, it's not all concrete. You'll come to green areas. And that's the one thing that Londonderry lacks. We have huge amounts of land that's conserved, but it doesn't serve a useful day-by-day purpose for anybody. And I think that, and the time is running out, that we ought to start considering, instead of investing any more money in the conservation land, start investing in some strategic spots in town that we think over the long haul will be useful green spaces. So there is these little oases that you see in some of the older cities and so on, where you can stop and sit down. And I think that the time is running out for us to be able to do something like that.
Thank you. Anything else from the board? Sean?
So you mentioned transportation. What would you improve on transportation in the town?
Well, funny you should ask. I just have been trying to, I'm on the Senior Resource Committee, and we started talking about transportation. And I have been involved for a good 5 years in transportation for seniors and adults in the state. And one of the things that I brought up is that there's a law in New Hampshire that cities and towns, if they choose, can add a fee onto their registration fees that would up to $5 per registration to be used for, I would say, transportation. Okay. Now the law is very, very broad. I mean, you can use it from anywhere from filling potholes in your roads to starting a transportation system. Well, it turns out that because of Londonderry and the proximity to the airport and the rental cars and so on, we have a lot of car registrations. So the key to any transportation system that you try to put together is it has to have a reliable flow of funds. Okay, that's why New Hampshire doesn't have any transportation to speak of, because there's no flow of funds. And back in 1938, there was a constitutional amendment passed in the state that said that all of the money we get from tolls and gasoline taxes and so on can only be used for roads. So we get a lot of money that way, and we get a lot of money from the federal government, but there is virtually no money by the state for transportation for people. Now, another interesting thing about transportation and why it's so important is that we're in a period of time what we've never been before in terms of transportation. And that is, we know, everybody knows, I think, that the transportation is lacking here and everywhere else for people that either don't drive or can't drive because of age and so on. Now, we have CART, and thank God we have CART, because we have much better transportation in our town than most towns. But it's CART, it's what it is. But one of the interesting things about transportation right now is a block of time, and I don't know how long this window will be open, We know we need transportation for elderly people and people with disabilities. But the trend is that now the partners in this for older people should be the young people, because the young people now, okay, that we want to keep in town aren't necessarily keen on driving cars. They like public transportation, okay? And the other thing they like is a good social atmosphere, okay? Well, the only social atmosphere for young people in our area is basically in Manchester or Nashua or Boston, okay? So having a good transportation system in town would help the old people, but it would also have transportation for young people who just, their transportation now is their iPhone and their computer. I mean, when I was growing up, and a lot of you were growing up, we couldn't wait to get that car because that was a freedom and how we could go see our friends and so on. Well, young people now, under, let's say, 30 or so, that phone replaces the car because they can see and talk and do just about everything with their friends at 50 at a time. And so if you want them to stay in town, you need to have a good transportation building. And that situation is, you see it now, but you'll see it more and more and more as the years go by, that we need transportation. Now, one of the reasons I decided to try to get on this committee was that I think transportation and housing are going to be the big issues on this plan, okay? Because, we already been through this twice. So we have 40 years of history with master plans that I know of, okay? So there's a lot from those plans that will be carried over. But we need to think about the future more. And I thought one of the things about this master plan that's different, I think, from when I say it's like a business plan, is in a business plan, you're putting this vision out there and trying to convince people it's the right vision. And then that's not the end of the plan. Then you spend the rest of years going after constantly tweaking that plan. And I've never seen a business plan that was relevant any more than a couple years into the business. And you basically throw it out, and you've planned 4 or 5 times since then. So anyway, I guess the point I'm trying to make is what we ought to try to do, if possible, is try to make this business plan, or this plan that we're going to put together, is make it a usable document, put hooks into it, and set up a process of continually updating it and keeping it relevant. Also, use it as a place where we can start collecting data. It doesn't have to be paper anymore. It can be we can have its own little block on the town's website. We got the business plan out there, and as we feed, as we go out and do other studies, get all that information pulled together. If we're going to review the plan every year, review it, put it together, and start some measurements. In the commercial world, everybody, it's matrix.
Yeah,
Thank you,
I
sir.
love the idea of the.
What?
No, I was just going to say, I love the idea of the living, breathing document.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hell of a lot of work to sit on the table. There's hundreds of copies of that, but most of them, if we went out and collected them, they're all pristine.
Yeah,
yours didn't look very beat up.
All right. Thank you very much.
Because I have a
Mr. Wilson.
photographic memory. I read it once and I got it.
Anything else from the board? We're good?
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you, Mr. Wilson, for applying. Okay.
Mr. Chair,
So we've heard.
I just wanted to point out.
Sure.
We have 2 alternate openings on the planning board. So if there's any interest there, please apply. Send a letter to the town council, to Kirsten Hildeman, and also the chair of the planning board, because we'd love to fill those 2 positions. And then you can be up here also.
I thought we just had one.
There's 2.
2?
Yeah. We have 3 alternates total.
Right.
You're one, Tony,
Got it.
and we need the two more. So keep that in mind, everyone, please.
So, we've got a handful of really good candidates here. Thank you all so much for applying. We've got, when you read what brief description we get on our talent bank forms, it's a small picture, and now we have a very good picture of everybody who's applied. We have a ton of experience throughout these applications. We've got a lot of familiar names that like us are helping out every day. What's exciting for me is I see 2 new names. I think that's really, really important, because we need all the volunteerism and help that we can get inside of our community. With that, if the board would be ready or would like to have a discussion, I am looking for a motion to nominate Suzanne Daniels and Christy Miner to the Master Plan Steering Committee.
So move, Mr. Chair.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second.
Are we voting individually or for both of them?
We could do them together or individually. Would you be more comfortable doing them
I'd
separately?
be more
or-
comfortable doing separate too.
I would be comfortable
Yes.
doing separate as well.
That's
Yeah.
fine. So I will.
I will amend my motion, Mr. Chair, and I'd like to make a motion that we approve Suzanne Daniels as an at-large member to the Master Plan Steering Committee.
Jeff?
Second.
I have a second. Do I have discussion?
I think my biggest concern with that is just compared to the rest of the newness in town and the lack of experience in
Yep.
some of these areas.
Yep.
So that for me is where
I would
see-
echo that.
Yeah.
And I would
I echo
too.
that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the potential is there
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
Yeah.
working together, but it's just the newness to the town and the
Yep.
compared to the other candidates.
Absolutely.
So, Mr. Chair, and I obviously respect my colleagues' opinions on that. I do also look at the other members that are currently made up from other
Boards or
committees
committees in town.
Yeah. And having that experience, with that great experience coming into this plan, and having kind of an element of not, kind of different perspectives to add to an incredibly important conversation. So that's where kind of I would,
Sure.
more lean towards on, folks that are relatively, newer to the process.
And I will say, I get your
Yes, sir.
point on that. And I think like Christy, she's a new face in town, and I love that. She's been here a little longer on that front. And she did have some experience with things that are related to these. So from that, I totally get where you're going with that, and that I agree with.
Yeah, I mean, same thing with Bob. Only in here for 4 years, but 4 years is a little bit longer. I would be more comfortable with that length of time rather than Suzanne just wrote. I mean, new. The skill sets. I mean, amazing. I wish we could.
Have 'em all?
I'd like to take all these people.
Absolutely.
The skill sets are amazing.
Okay.
And great interviews, and I mean, it's very heartening to see what's out there and that's interested in helping. But
We do have a motion. We're on discussion. We have a second. Does anybody have? I'm sorry, Mr. D. I did cut you off a little bit.
No, I'm good.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to say before we vote on our motion?
So I will say one thing, Mr. Chair. I wholeheartedly agree with Jeff Penta and the fact that we have a lot of other people on the steering committee that are coming from embedded committees and organizations within the town. And I think this is a perfect opportunity for somebody new to town to step up, get involved, and I think their opinions, from what I've heard tonight, would be very valid and very helpful to the overall charter of what the steering committee is going to accomplish.
Absolutely. And I would echo that as well. So, Ann.
I think I agree with Robert. You're talking about Bob? No,
Suzanne.
We're just talking about Suzanne.
We're talking about
Talking about
Suzanne.
Suzanne.
The motion is
Oh, okay.
Suzanne.
There's a motion on
Motion is
the,
for
on the
Suzanne.
floor right now to nominate Suzanne, so we're on a discussion for that.
Okay.
Do we have any more discussion? I have a motion, I have a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 I have 3 ayes. Opposed, please say nay.
Name.
Nay.
1, 2, 3, 4. Chair votes in the affirmative, so that would put us at a tie, so the motion would pass. Correct?
Who was opposed? Could you state for the record?
Opposed was our Sean Faber, Jason Knights, Ann Champa, and Giovanni Varani.
So if it's a tie, motion fails.
Motion fails.
Motion fails.
Fails, okay. So then the motion fails. All right, I'm looking for,
Mr. Chair?
yeah,
I'd like to make a motion that we approve Christy Minier to an at-large position on the Master Plan Steering Committee.
I have a motion. Do I have a
Second.
second? I have a second. Up for discussion.
I think that's a good choice. I like her background on it.
Yes, I think it's the organization, and I think it's the newness to town also, which is, I think, a perspective that's probably needed to get some,
Yeah, a combination of relatively new to town and a very good skill set and
Sure.
experience set.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Take a
Ann,
vote.
Is it just on this person?
this is on this person, yes. Okay. So I have a motion, I have a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Chair votes,
I'm an aye.
aye. Opposed? Chair votes in the affirmative. Ann Champa, please note as opposed. The rest of the board votes in the affirmative. Ms. Minor, congratulations. All right, we have one more nomination to make.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to nominate Robert Robichuk. Sorry for your name, me mispronouncing your name, as a alternate, or not as an alternate, as a member of the planning.
Steering committee.
Steering
Yes, sir.
committee.
Steering committee.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second by Art. Up for discussion.
I
See,
think that Mr. Robisek brings somewhat of a newness perspective, but well experienced in municipal, planning and design. I think it would be a skill that we really don't have that is on the committee.
thank you.
I
Ann,
agree,
agree.
and he's an architect also.
I think it's a good choice.
sure. Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have one opposition, is Lynn Wiles, and the chair votes in the affirmative. Mr. Robichuk, congratulations. Everybody, thank you very much for coming out. As Art had discussed earlier, we have 2 open positions at the planning board, and I know there's a handful of other open positions in various boards and committees across town, so we hope you apply.
And you're certainly welcome to come all to the planning board meetings for discussion of the master plan. Also, the steering committee, when they meet on the master plan, because the public input is what's going to make it successful.
And I believe before we wrap up, Sylvia, you look like you have something, you're jumping out of your chair.
I'm jumping. I am so impressed with all the candidates. Three individuals that have, my goodness, it sounded like over 100 years here in Londonderry. That is so impressive. I know 2 of you and love working with you. 3 new people and with so many skills. So I'm going to help lead that charge with the master plan. There's going to be a lot of outreach opportunities, and we hope we see you all involved in all the different events, and looking forward to working with you.
Thank you very much. All right, folks, I'm not sure, because it's just a committee, they wouldn't have to go see the town clerk or anything, correct?
It is a creation of the planning board, but probably, I
They need to
think.
be sworn in.
Okay,
I
so
think we got the answer.
if you could go see the town clerk and get sworn in, we would appreciate it.
Fantastic.
Fantastic.
Maybe we'd be
I
struck
know, I keep
down.
forgetting Kelly is it. Like all of a sudden there's just this voice.
Well, thank you. Thank you, folks, very much.
Thank you, everyone.
I believe we had a off-the-cuff discussion and conversation, but there was never a formal vote on the planning board side of things. So I would like to know how the board would like to move forward on that. I know in our conversation, we had talked about Jeff, Lynn, and myself being on the committee. Does the board have any opposition to that, or would we like to see anything else, or would we like to make a motion on that so we can formalize the planning board side?
I can make a motion to that effect, Mr. Chair.
Sure. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
A second.
I have a second from Jason. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Chair votes in the affirmative. We have our 3 planning board members, which are Lynn, myself, and Mr. Penta. I believe we also, do we have to do something, Art, with the Heritage Commission? Did they make a decision?
I have not heard anything from the Heritage Commission. I've sent 2 emails. Remember Kelly had informed me they had everyone, so. Good
Sure.
question. Don't know the answer to that.
So with that, if we don't have if we don't have somebody from the Heritage Commission who's volunteered, would we like to make a nomination for somebody in the Heritage Commission?
I wouldn't want to do that because I have to see if the individual is acceptable to do
Sure.
that.
Sure.
No, you can add any time.
Yeah, we can still move forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Sylvia, are you good with that?
But I think the expectation, I know last time the Heritage Commission worked with the Historical Society. And in previous master plans, there was a whole historical section, and it got left out of this one.
I believe I heard Kelly was trying to say something. Kelly?
Yeah, if the planning board wants to make a motion to appoint somebody from Heritage this evening, you have the ability, and I would encourage you to do so. If the motion fails for some reason, then we can take it up at a different time. However, we really need to establish this committee so that we can proceed with scheduling the steering committee meetings.
Has anyone expressed, so no one's expressed
It
interest?
sounds
in
like
Heritage?
nobody's expressed interest
I
in
don't think
Heritage.
there's anything that has happened, because I've just sent emails to the chair, so.
So would the motion, Kelly, thank you, Mr. Chair, would the motion be that the planning board is going to take a Heritage Commission person? How would you do that?
I meant if the board has somebody in mind,
a
they
name.
can
Yeah.
make that nomination.
I think, if the Heritage Commission hasn't had any input, then they must, maybe there's not a level of interest there. Do we
I think
look at maybe possibly removing that position as a whole from?
No, I wouldn't do that.
No, I wouldn't do that.
John Mahan is
My
good.
recommendation would be to nominate someone, make the motion. If that individual doesn't want to participate, then they can step down and that position can be filled by a different person from Heritage. Once we get more communication from them, I'm just more focused on establishing this steering committee so that we can, at a minimum, proceed with scheduling meetings. Because the board has been very clear that you want this process to be expeditious. So in order to do that, we really should establish this evening.
Can we not proceed without making a decision on?
Right,
do we need the decision in order to proceed, or can we just leave it as a vacant position?
Until such time that they
Until
give
it's
us a
filled.
positive statement as
Yeah.
to who they
Heritage
want.
Commission meets in 2 weeks.
What if you sort of nominated the chair as sort of a de facto,
We
and
could
then
nominate the vice chair as the de facto.
I'm the vice chair.
Took him a minute. There you go.
I would go with the secretary, John Mahan.
I guess if you need a placeholder, then just throw a name in.
Sure.
We'll
Yeah.
vote that person in, and then pick up the pieces later.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion
Absolutely.
to nominate John
John Mahan.
Mahan.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We'll
Opposed?
send a letter to, I mean, John's on some other committees in town, is
Yeah, he's
very
done a lot.
active anyway.
The chair votes in the affirmative. Congratulations, Mr. Mann.
Who will reach out to him?
Yeah,
Say he was
Kelly,
nominated.
if you could reach out to him, Kelly, and just let him know, we could go from there.
Yeah, I will try also.
Sure. Fantastic. All right. So moving on, bear with me here.
People don't like to get volunteered.
We have old.
When you have to, you get volunteered.
All right. We have old business here, and it is right here. We have a public hearing on an application for formal review of a site plan and conditional use permit to permit 25,391 square feet of wetland buffer impact and to construct a compressed natural gas fueling station along with associated site improvements at 26 Liberty Drive, map 16, lot 60-3. Waste Management of New Hampshire is the owner and applicant. This has been continued from June 5th, 2024. Folks, if you want to come on up.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, just as some background, again, as you indicated, this was continued from June 5th, 2024. The application was accepted as complete. There were a number of waivers that the applicant is requesting, or had been opened up to the public. The abutters had expressed some concerns. Waste Management was asked to meet with the abutters. Waste Management has, as we understand it, they've submitted a letter to staff as well as to the board, and we're here this evening to hear for them to give us an update.
Thank you very much, sir.
Some activity to do with the application itself.
Thank you.
Thanks.
How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Fantastic.
Thank you for having us here this evening. Waste Management appreciate your time and effort. And boy, do you guys have a lot of great candidates in your community.
We're fortunate.
Yeah, you really are.
Yeah.
Sorry,
just for the record.
My name is Ann Reichert, and I am an engineer with Waste Management New Hampshire.
Thank you.
We're here tonight to talk about our application. Do you want a whole another technical review and recap?
You know, I think if you could give us a 30,000-foot view to help maybe refresh some of the board's memory. More in particular, I would like you to read the letter that you have sent to town staff with regards to the last meeting.
Okay, so you want the whole letter read into the record?
Yes, please.
Okay. I do have one edit in it.
Sure.
If you don't mind me making it. I identified that there was 3 property abutters we met with. We met with 2, and a third party who's not a direct abutter to us, but is in that area.
Sure.
So,
thank you.
30,000 square foot view. Waste Management in New Hampshire has applied for an application for conditional use determination along with site plan approval associated with our site plan improvements at our property, primarily focused around stormwater, and then also for development of a CNG fueling station for our fleet vehicles that service the community of Londonderry and the surrounding southern New Hampshire area. Waste Management has secured approval from the DES for some wetlands abatement. Waste Management had site plan approval for the property in 1990 when we built our main building and our main operation. We did a modification in 1999, and when we approached the town a couple of years ago to implement the CNG improvements, working with planning and engineering, John identified that there were some discrepancies at the site in regards to current site conditions and configuration in relation to what plans were on record with the town. So Waste Management, through the assistance of planning and engineering, we've developed a complete permit application to make sure our site conditions are on record with the community. We're going to also address the wetland restoration and then proceed with the new development. I can go in deeper if you want. Amy's right here.
I think that's...
Fussin O'Neill's our engineer of record.
I think that's good if we could read the letter and go
Okay.
through that, please.
The letter is dated from July 8th, and it's signed by myself, Ann Reichert, as Construction Project Manager with Waste Management. Addressed to Miss Kelly Karen, Assistant Town Manager and Director of Economic Development, Town of Londonderry, 268B Mammoth Road, Londonderry, New Hampshire, 03053. Regarding Waste Management of New Hampshire, Inc., map 16, lot 60-3, Londonderry Hauling Facility Site Plan and Conditional Use Permit, Property abutter Communication Summary. Dear Ms. Karen, the purpose of this correspondence is to provide the Planning Board an update on Waste Management of New Hampshire's communication with the 3 property abutters located on Woods Avenue and our efforts to address their concerns. As you are aware, the property owners and/or tenants of the 3 homes that abut our parcel attended and voiced their concerns about Waste Management of New Hampshire's site plan and conditional use permit application at the June 5th, 2024 Planning Board meeting. Waste Management New Hampshire reached out to these individuals during the week of June 10th and coordinated a meeting at our facility the evening of June 19th, 2024, to allow our operations staff to be introduced and to establish future communication between parties. During this meeting, Waste Management provided an in-depth review of the project and explained the project under review by the Planning Board will actually involve moving our operations further away from their parcels and improving stormwater from our facility, along with providing an improvement of truck fleet emissions in Londonderry and the surrounding communities. Since first learning of the concerns of the abutters during the Planning Board meeting, Waste Management New Hampshire has moved forward with several efforts to begin to adjust our operations to address these concerns. Our efforts to address each concern are summarized below and have been communicated to the 3 property owners in 2 electronic mail messages dated June 24, 2024 and July 1, 2024. Waste Management's efforts include lighting. Waste Management had a licensed electrician on site June 28, 2024 to replace 2 exterior building light fixtures to be dark sky compliant while adjusting 10 other existing light fixtures in the rear of the facility downward to improve conditions observed off-site. Noise. Waste Management has relocated daily required safety testing of truck horns to the entrance of the property at Liberty Drive instead of in the parking lot. Waste Management is required to complete this testing daily as part of safe truck operation. Regarding noise occurring from unauthorized use of Waste Management's property, Waste Management has several security cameras in place and has purchased and mounted more than a dozen no trespassing signs around the perimeter of the facility to deter unauthorized access. Maintenance staff has identified and has ordered 4 alternate truck backup alarm systems and will be installing and testing them on our roll-off truck fleet. Priority will be given to those trucks moving at the facility during our earliest shift. These alarms have to be DOT compliant and work in concert with our hoist up alarm to meet our organization's safety program standards. Waste Management has trained drivers and maintenance staff on our proximity to our neighbors and is implementing noise reduction efforts, parentheses, equipment, containers, vehicle alarms, voices, and music, close parentheses, beyond normal business hours. Waste Management recognizes the need to continue to revisit this issue on an ongoing basis. 5 custom signs have been ordered and will be posted around the rear of the facility to remind employees to be courteous of neighbors and to minimize noise when working in this area. Vibration. Our meeting identified this situation as occurring during moving of our larger containers to our repair facility located in the building. Waste Management has impressed upon staff the importance of minimizing dragging of these units to the extent possible and adjusting the time of day to normal business hours when handling. Waste Management is trying other equipment to relocate these containers to reduce the impact to the ground. Waste Management has not been able to eliminate it completely, parentheses. For example, during the week of June 24th, Waste Management in New Hampshire relocated 2 containers just before 7 a.m. and was notified by Kim Spears of the disturbance, close parentheses. Waste Management believes we are moving forward. We are making forward progress and will continue our focus on this activity. Rodents. Waste Management employs an exterminator who visits the site every 6 weeks. Waste Management New Hampshire has met with the representative on site and has authorized the installation of 6 additional bait boxes in the rear of the facility. Waste Management New Hampshire looks forward to meeting with the Planning Board on July 10, 2024 to continue our discussion about this project. If you have any questions regarding this information, please contact me at 330-2140 or ariker@wm.com. Sincerely, Waste Management of New Hampshire, Inc., Ann Reichert, P.E., Construction Project Manager. CC, John Troutier, Londonderry. Amy Sanders, Fussin O'Neill. Chris Hatch, Waste Management. Brian Damaris, Waste Management. That's the end.
Thank you very much. We're in a public hearing. I'm going to look for staff's input. I'm going to bring it to the board, and then we will open up comment to the public. John, do you have anything?
No, nothing new to add. It's the June 5th meeting, Mr. Chairman. Again, as I indicated, we do just need to act upon the conditional use permit, the CUP, the CUP, and then the waiver, and then act on the approval. if
Thank you,
so
sir.
see fit.
Kelly, do you have anything?
So 2 waivers and a conditional use permit, and the Conservation Commission has recommended approval of the conditional use permit.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to bring it to the board. Board, do we have any comments? Yes, sir.
So a couple of questions. Under noise, under the first bullet, you talk about the daily safety testing of the truck horns. How many trucks exit the property every day?
I'm actually going to ask one of my operations staff members to join me on some of these questions because, as I said before, I'm not located. Chris? So Chris Hatch is going to join us. He is the district manager located at the facility. He manages both Londonderry and other locations for us.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir. If you could just state your name and address, please.
Chris Hatch. I live in Samberton, New Hampshire.
Thank you.
We deploy approximately 50 to 60 trucks any given day.
And what is the testing? I assume it's just pulling on the horn?
The air horn, yeah, is a DOT requirement to test that daily.
And so right now you've implemented testing it at the entrance to the site, so that'd be off of Liberty Drive?
Correct. This is the furthest point from the abutters.
Okay. Do the drivers keep a record of that testing being done?
It's on the driver inspection log, yes.
They do a daily inspection log?
Yes, sir.
I assume? Okay.
Pre-trip and post-trip, twice a day.
And then my only other question is, you talk about normal daytime business hours. What are normal daytime business hours?
We open at 3 a.m. and we close approximately 6 p.m. Normal business hours we would consider after 7 a.m.
So 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. would be normal business hours, normal daytime business hours?
Yes. We do open daily at 3 a.m. though.
Yeah. Understand. Okay, thank you.
Anything else from the board? Yes, sir.
I would just like to add a comment. I do like to see stuff like this where we have people coming up and addressing concerns, and to see someone address that with them and come up with this list. So I thank you for that.
Thank you.
Anything else from the board?
I have a question.
I'll save my comments for after the public.
Yep, Mr. Barani.
So what happens if these conditions that you have in this letter aren't fulfilled? What if, like, it works for 6 months and then you go back to normal operations?
This is our normal operations at this point.
You're saying what's outlined in this letter is your normal operations moving forward?
Correct.
Does that answer your question?
I guess, but I mean, what?
Mr. Chair, if I may?
Yes, ma'am.
If the board is intending to attach this letter as part of the conditions of approval, you can choose to do that or not. Once the plans are signed, if any portion of the approved signed site plan is out of compliance, it becomes a code enforcement issue.
I think that's a good idea.
Thank you.
Yes.
I do too.
Anything before I go to the public? Seeing none, I'm going to open up the public hearing. If you have anything to say, please come up, state your name and address.
Hello, Jeff Spears, 22 Woods Ave, Londonderry.
Thank you, sir.
They have made a lot of improvements, and I'm grateful for it. But as you see in there, they were shaking, vibrating the ground again. And according to the town ordinance, nothing's supposed to vibrate beyond their property. It's right in the ordinance that each offense could be fined $1,000. So that's the biggest, the only issue we have right at the moment.
Thank you very
So,
much.
I mean, they're trying. They are trying.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah.
If they know that there's a possible fine for every violation, then it might help.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's really code enforcement. It'd be the code enforcement officer, building inspector would handle that. We don't have any, enforcement abilities at all. So.
Absolutely. Anybody else?
So Kim Spears, 22 Woods Ave. I also agree that they have made some great improvements. To the comment that was in the letter, so I work in the school department, and I had my first day off, 7 o'clock in the morning. I had the opportunity, I was sleeping in, and my whole room was vibrating. So to hear that we're going to keep shaking my house down to certain hours of the day, after 20 years of my house being shaken, I don't know if that's a great compromise. I don't want to come across unreasonable. I know there's going to be noise. I know there's going to be sounds. There'll be rodents because we're in New Hampshire. It's a wooded area. There's, whatever. But 20 years of my house shaking is enough. And Cheryl couldn't be here tonight, but she said she researched it, and in Boston they have like soft landing pads where they can drop the dumpsters so they're not impacting the residents. I don't know if that's an option where, rather than, the ground shaking, if that's a possibility. The other thing was, in my field, we would call it amendment. I don't know what you call when you're adding something on, or a waiver.
A condition.
But out of the 7 days, we get 1 day a week of kind of quiet. So I know it was mentioned that possibly they want to work on Sundays to do the construction. I don't know if that was part of it or not, but if we could not have work done on Sunday, so we could just kind of keep that 1 day still, that'd be great. And again, I do appreciate the board listening to our concerns, because in 20 years, this is probably the biggest gains and improvement that we have had, and we're kind of finally getting some hope. So I truly appreciate it, and you've made so much progress for us in such a short amount of time that I have decided to put my husband on the next agenda, so we'll be moving forward with improving. But thank you so much.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public? All right, seeing none, I'm going to bring it back to the board. Does the board have anything else they would like to add? Ann?
I think they should look into those soft impact pads, if that's a possibility that could quell that noise from the dumpsters.
Can we ask them?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Do you have a response to that, sir?
So the concern they have is us dragging dumpsters causing the vibration, not actually putting them down, right? So a pad wouldn't help with dragging.
Because you're dragging across something. Yeah. Okay.
It must be a common piece of ledge there, something that they live on and that you were on, or where you do the work is causing the vibration to travel through the ledge. They're probably the only ones that feel it. I'm sure that what goes on there, you probably can't feel it, but.
So do we have? Thank you, Mr. Chair. Do we have any process or anything in place where we can, by we I mean you, Mr. Chair, can send a letter to code enforcement saying at a recent planning board meeting we heard from neighbors that this noise transmission, which is in violation of whatever the code number is, can that be done? Is that something that
I don't see why not. I have recently sent an email with regards to two separate occasions at a facility in town that is having an issue with car carriers showing up. I don't see why I could follow the same thing in hopes that town staff would send code enforcement out to have an inspection of whatever that is.
So could someone please make a motion to the chair to send a letter to code enforcement concerning vibration on the waste management site at whatever the address is?
Could we just hold off on the motion until we get through making sure anybody else on the board has anything to say?
Absolutely. So,
Mr. Chair, could I just address
Sure.
Tony's question about process.
Sure.
Briefly.
Sure.
So, you're correct, anyone at any time, doesn't have to be a member of the board, it can be public, whoever, may utilize the code enforcement process, which is submitting something formal, whether that be a phone call or in writing, to the building department, which is where code enforcement is housed. They will then proceed with the appropriate investigation, if you will, once they receive the information from the complainant.
Thank you.
I have two other items.
Yes, sir.
So I would, if it's possible, I would like to have us consider no Sunday work during the construction process. I don't think that's too much to ask.
It's not allowed anyways by our ordinance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No Sundays and no holidays.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that's a given then. And I would like to thank Ann for coming back. I lost a bet that you would be back here because we beat you up pretty good, and you kind of had the deer in the headlights. You walked into a buzzsaw, and I felt bad at the end of the meeting.
That we did, and
but you cost me a drink because I lost the bet. But thank you, and I will tell you what, it's this kind of cooperation that unfortunately doesn't happen enough between applicants, landowners, neighbors, and whatever. And it's every time it happens, it seems like it's so easily kinda rectified, and the parties seem to get along and almost be friends after that. And I think it speaks a lot to and whatever you did on behalf of the neighborhood, I thank you. But someone had to let him know because he wasn't here. So, but at any rate, I wanna thank you. And also, it was mentioned how quickly things happened, and that's a little bit unusual. Usually, it takes a little bit of time, and it seems like you all saw a call to action and went to implementation phase in a nanosecond. And so on behalf of that neighborhood and the whole town, I thank you for that as well, and your quick response time. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate your recognition of it. We are, as I had expressed before, Waste Management's intent is not to disturb the neighbors, but we work in an industry that is a necessary industry, and the trucking fleet, and it's not always, dress shoes and fancy carpets and such. We get dirty, we get down in the trenches, but it is stuff we have to have done to make sure citizens have clean streets every day.
Sure.
And I appreciate the efforts of my coworkers because they jumped on it right away. And there's 6 of us here tonight, so if anything, that should indicate our commitment to continuing to work and build a relationship with our abutters. As I had said, we hadn't heard of these concerns until last month, so.
Yep.
Thank you.
All set. Thank
Anything from the board? I have a couple questions, statements, questions, what have you. In your letter, you're talking about a few lights that were removed from the building and made dark sky compliant. Is it dark sky compliant? Is it? Am I using the right terminology there, John?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
As well as adjusting the lighting that is in the yard to be facing down. My question is, with the lighting that is in the yard, John, though it's adjusted down, does it meet dark sky compliance?
So there's gonna be new lighting associated with the CNG facility. Chris, are some of those lights that you adjusted, are those going away?
Yes, they will be. The new CNG lights are downward facing, and I believe have dimmers or
Yeah, they have timer settings, so we have the ability to adjust them.
So the ones that they fixed, Jake, they're getting
rid of
eliminated.
So there were some directly pointing towards the back yard, which is abutting the neighbors, and those are just facing down.
Yep. So I would like to have a confirmation that it sounds, as a board, obviously, we're going to make a decision here, but it sounds that we would like this letter to be part of their conditions. I would like to add in that, to reinforce that all of that lighting meets dark sky compliance. You know, when after that meeting, I drove around your facility for a little bit, and it's brighter than Manchester
That's
Airport.
why they put the no trespassing sign.
Yeah, exactly.
It was your
so this was an idea of that place at about midnight. So I appreciate the efforts you have made, but I do want to make sure that is dark sky compliant. A couple other brief things I have. Mr. D, you had commented on the construction on Sundays, which is part of our regulations. I would ask if the board feels as though it is reasonable to condition that they cannot do any of this dragging movement of dumpsters on what is considered off business hours. So, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. or something like that. If there's it sounds like there's a midnight shift that you guys have, or you work until later in the night. Or I should say technically early in the morning because it's 3 a.m. Is that a reasonable condition that in those what are off hours that we add that to a condition? And again, I focus on fair and reasonable, and I think that's what we as a board need to figure out is if we think that's reasonable. I would like to thank you for getting on this. To his point, more often than not, there isn't this much of a response as quickly as there have been. I sympathize with you guys. I understand that, it's never going to be perfect. At the end of the day, your abutter is a commercial facility. That is what it is. This is the nature of their industry. But I think the things they've put forward are very fair. They are reasonable. Obviously, I have a couple other conditions that I still feel are fair and reasonable, and we'll wait to hear from the board on. But, I think this is a really good step in the right direction for you. And like I said, at the end of the day, you do abut a commercial facility, so noise isn't going to go away. There's always still going to be light, but this is that step in a good, positive direction that we as a board love to see. And that's kind of my 2 cents to it. I would like to get the board's temperature on the couple conditions I'd like to add to that.
Can we do the dragging again? Is the dragging when you hook the container and drag it up onto the truck? Is that the dragging? Or you just drag them around the building? I don't understand the dragging part.
So some of the containers will have to go into the container shop for repair. So on occasion, we take a loader, put a chain on the hook of the can, and it has metal wheels on it, and we drag it to inside the container shop.
Why can't it be picked up?
You can't pick them up with a loader, just the balance of it. So what we're trying to do now going forward, if there is a truck that can pick it up in the yard and someone trained to do so, that's one of the changes that we're trying to make. It's a work in progress.
So you don't have an industrial forklift on the site to pick it up, bring it in the shop, put it down? You just drag them?
The footing, the
Yeah.
yard does not, the surface of the yard wouldn't support a fork truck. It's a gravel-based yard, and I think there'd be concerns to have.
Well, we don't allow gravel yards, do we? Doesn't everything have to be paved?
They do that was approved being gravel
Yeah.
Then.
years ago.
But now, the new building they won't have a gravel. They won't be dragging them on gravel, right?
No, their storage yard is still, a portion of it is still gravel.
Oh.
Yeah, the edits on the plans, we're not modifying the container storage.
This is technically an amendment to an existing site plan.
Right.
So, with that, I think it's a reasonable request to say, I understand that you have to drag your dumpsters. I understand it's part of your industry, getting it into the bay. I get that. Is it reasonable to say between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. they can't be dragging dumpsters around? And making sure that you pre-plan for that, and by 5 at night you need your dumpsters in for whatever night work is going on, something like that. My question for the board is, do
If
they
the
feel that's
daytime
reasonable?
hours start at 7, I would say 6 p.m. to 7 a.m.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. How does the board feel about that?
Yep.
I'm good.
Okay. My other one was on just ensuring that any lighting in the lot meets the dark sky requirements, adding that to the condition as well.
And that's for existing as well as new construction?
New and existing, correct.
So in your photogrammetry, Amy?
We'll need to update the
Yep.
lighting plan.
Yep.
Can we have an implementation period for that, for the existing lighting? Because just the entire construction, the CNG component of it
Yep.
is, given the time of year that we're at,
Yep.
that's scheduled for next year because we can't disrupt our current block heater system for this coming winter.
Yep.
Can the
I'll-
full site lighting evolve with CNG?
So what's gonna end up happening, Ian, is Amy will tweak the plan, so that way, again, so
The plan is
will reflect what has to be done, and then you'll get your plan conditionally approved, finally approved, then once you get into construction and before you get your CO for the CNG
Confirm.
portion, all that needs to be done.
All that would have to be met. So there is,
Understood?
you could call it a grace period, but it's part of your construction process. It needs to be noted on the plans themselves, so we can come back and say, okay, are you in compliance or not? But that would be part of being able to get your, as John said, your CO for the CNG part of this. Anything else from the board? I know, Mr. D, you wanted a motion, maybe we can,
Oh, yeah, are we gonna do that?
yeah. Do we want to go, CUP waivers and then make any other motions at approval time?
Yeah, what do we need to do tonight?
So we have a
Please do
CUP.
the waivers, the CUP, and then the plan.
Yep.
Waivers.
Waivers first, yeah.
Can I make one clarification?
Yep.
Avoid a condition?
Yep.
We don't have work planned on Sunday during construction.
Yes.
So that
Yep.
wasn't even on the table.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
The reason why I said that was because it was said in public, it's on tape, and so it had, we had to do that.
So with that, is the board all set? Would we like to begin to move through our deliberation here? Mr. Rugg?
Mr. Chair, I will make a motion to grant two waivers. One, the applicant is requesting a waiver from Londonderry Site Plan Regulations 3.10.G.5 relating to the landscape mitigation and parking lots, and the staff is supporting of that. And number two, the applicant is requesting a waiver from Londonderry Site Plan Regulations 3.01.C.2, Exhibit R104, relating to the town's standard detail for bituminous curb. Staff supports that waiver, and these waivers are granted, let's see, because they can be granted because there's no substantial detriment to the public good.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
I have a second by Lynn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes in the affirmative. Your two waivers have been granted. Okay, we have a conditional use permit to act on.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we grant the conditional use permit because the applicant is requesting a CUP per Londonderry zoning ordinance, section 4.6.1.4.a. The applicant has requested a conditional use permit to allow permitted use of the Conservation Overlay District. The Conservation Commission has recommended approval of the CUP. So the motion is to grant approval of the conditional use permit for approximately 25,391 square feet of wetland buffer impact to construct a compressed natural gas CNG fueling station along with associated site improvements.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
I have
For discussion?
Yes, sir.
When do we add the noise compliance in the letter dated July 8th?
So I would like to do that with our conditional approval, add those as conditions to the
That'd be
conditional
the
approval.
last motion.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. I have a motion. I have a second. All in favor? Do I have a second? I'm sorry. Did you second that? I have a second.
Lynn seconded.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes in the affirmative. Your conditional use permit has been granted. Last but not least, I am looking for a motion to grant conditional approval of a site plan and to construct a compressed natural gas fueling station along with associated site improvements at 26 Liberty Drive, map 16, lot 60-3, Waste Management of New Hampshire Incorporated is the owner and applicant in accordance with plans prepared by Fuss and O'Neill dated May 10th, 2024, with the added conditions that what is outlined in your letter is met, as well as all of your lot and building lighting meets dark sky requirements, and that there are no dragging movements of dumpsters to get them into wherever they need to go between 5 p.m. and 7 a.m. Mr. D, I'm sure I missed something, so I am coming to you.
No, other than the letter dated July 8th, just to clarify.
Yeah, so for
Include the letter, so
clarification,
this is
clarification
three-
purposes, the condition is the letter dated July 8th that was presented to us tonight.
The time of day, it didn't sound right to me. So what did you do for dragging from?
No noise from dragging these dumpsters between 5 p.m. and 7 a.m.
I think the time before was 6.
It was
If you want to
6
make a change, that's fine.
p.m.
That just
6
says-
6 p.m.
6 p.m.
I'm sorry, yeah,
PM
6
to
p.m. to
yeah.
7 a.m.
Okay.
Yep,
Can I just ask about that?
yes.
If you have a town ordinance that says you cannot have vibration, does this go against that? Because
Yeah, are we giving them away?
that is now sort of giving leave to have vibration.
It's giving leave to vibration. I see what you're saying.
I don't know what that ordinance looks like, so I can't help you there.
I don't know what that ordinance looks like either.
Um,
Kelly, do you recall what that looks like?
What was the question exactly?
Is there a time frame for vibration? I know that there's a time frame for working between, 7 and 7.
No, there's not a time frame associated with it. It's the 5.16 in the zoning ordinance, just the standard itself.
So would we fall in a conflict then with current law if we would do something like that, where we could pretty much permit an exception window that would cause some variances with how they view the regulation?
So I just want to make sure I'm clear on the proposed condition. You said you're restricting 6 p.m. to 7 a.m.?
Correct. And the question, Kelly, is by creating that restriction, are we then, if I'm hearing this right, by creating that restriction, we are then allowing vibration over what is required by the ordinance? Am I getting that right?
Yeah, during the day.
That's the question, during the day.
Because we
Correct.
didn't say you can never have vibration. We only said you can't have vibration on noises from
Like
7 p.m. to 6 a.m.
Yeah.
Or whatever it was.
The other thing is the observation of the vibration, it hasn't been measured. So we're assuming we're over, with this discussion.
So I guess, Kelly, am I correct in saying I'd be concerned that adding this condition could actually have a negative impact to the overall site plan?
I'm just going to read the language verbatim so everyone can
Sure.
hear it. It's just the language in 5.16.1 in the zoning ordinance states, no vibration shall be produced which is transmitted through the ground and is discernibly without the aid of instruments at any point beyond the lot line. So erring on the side of caution, I wouldn't manipulate conditions or anything to be anything but maintaining compliance with section 5.16 of the zoning ordinance. So that way it's very clear that they have to comply with what I just read.
So then I would look to be removing that from the motion. So to go through again, I'm looking for a motion to grant conditional approval of a site plan and construct a compressed natural gas fueling station along with associated site improvements, 26 Liberty Drive, map 16, lot 60-3. Waste Management of New Hampshire Incorporated is the owner and applicant in accordance with plans prepared by Fuss and O'Neill dated May 10th, 2024. And that the conditions are met to include the additional conditions of the July 8th memo to staff that was presented tonight, as well as adding that all exterior lighting meets the dark sky requirements.
So just those two things.
Somebody second that.
Do
I
you,
need so I need a so moved.
I'll make
wha-
that.
one-
So moved,
are we
actually.
in discussion yet?
No, we are not. I have a so moved. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Mr.
I have a
Chair.
second. Discussion.
Thank you. So do we take what Kelly just read and suggest, and include that the applicant be compliant with that part of the regulation?
No, because then you'd have to list every,
Yeah, that's
every,
Already,
that would be
It's already
redundant because
required.
that's a
It's
already
requirement.
required.
Yeah,
and it's required as a plan now.
yeah.
Okay.
would have to
okay.
read the whole code book and
That's
put
so
it with the
true.
motion.
Okay, so just, causing trouble here.
That's
Sorry.
okay.
It's all right. I like it.
We're all in this together.
We need to know everything, so.
So I have a motion. I have a second. We're in discussion. Does anybody have any further discussion? Seeing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes in the affirmative. Thank you folks very much for working with your neighbors.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
So now, Mr. Chair, I think now is the time where
Yes.
we would direct you to to code enforcement or whomever, saying that we had testimony that there was noise and vibrations past the lot line, and give the addresses or the lot numbers or whatever.
Absolutely. So I will entertain a motion. I know you can't make it.
Make it.
So if I could have a motion from one of the other board members on it.
So
Mr.
I
Rowe.
will make that motion.
I'll second that, Mr.
I have a
Chair.
motion. I have a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes in the affirmative, and I will make sure I follow up with that and get out the appropriate communication to the appropriate powers that be.
Yeah, code enforcement.
Yep. Okay, so, do we have anything else on our agenda?
I hope not.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make note for the public record that we did have public comment tonight at the planning board meeting, and the public did comment.
Yes, and we do have one thing that I have skipped over is the master plan work session.
Yeah, I have a few comments I'd like to make as well.
Sure, I don't know, Kelly, if you want to start, or Sylvia, if you want to start, but whichever
Could
one.
you, put me on screen for somebody?
Yes. John, you got that?
Thank you. Just making sure you know I'm still here.
All right, Kelly.
So before we get into the master plan work session, I have a few comments about the actions earlier.
Sure.
So I am very, very concerned about the board taking the action to continue the new site plans that were scheduled this evening. I found the reasoning to be unjustified, and quite frankly, I'm concerned about it causing potential legal issue for the town. Tonight's agenda was sent to the board 3 weeks ago. You were aware of the applications that were scheduled. You could have contacted staff or come in to the town hall at any time to view them. The full applications and associated plans were sent to the board by email 2 weeks ago. So you did have the materials you needed to review and make an informed decision. The staff recommendations themselves were sent yesterday afternoon. But I want to remind the board that until very recently, within the last 6 months, you wouldn't have received those staff memos until 7 p.m. the day of the meeting. So, again, we're progressing and we're, I believe, headed in the right direction with regard to our process and making positive changes. Also want to remind the board that staff recommendations are not required to be provided in order for you to make a decision. So using the timeliness of their receipt is not a valid reason to continue an application. And quite frankly, it really only harms the applicants who spent their time and their money paying engineers to be there at these hearings. And they weren't given any awareness, nor was staff, that this decision was going to be made this evening. So, I'm disappointed, quite frankly, in the decision. I was under the impression that we, staff and the board, were working together towards a solution about our review process and our regulations. So it's unclear to me why this decision would be made this evening. and that justification would be, why that justification would be used. If a board member ever has questions about an application or the agenda, and specifically if you had questions about tonight's applications, you could have contacted staff directly. I didn't hear from anybody about questions or concerns about the applications themselves. So again, not sure why you came to that decision, and I just wanted to make clear for the record that I have concerns about it, and just reminding you that you do have a responsibility as a board to make your own decisions, and you need to consider your responsibility to these applicants and property owners in town when you're doing so.
Thank you, Kelly. I'm not going to really entertain a back and forth on this. I'll only add that.
I'm not looking for a back and forth.
Yep, good. So we're back and forth.
With
So
respect to the master plan.
I'm gonna speak real quick, Kelly. So as I said, I'm not looking for a back and forth. We'll end it at that. But the board has made a decision, and that's the decision we've made. That was at the time what we felt was in the best interest of the residents of Londonderry. So I'll leave it at that, and you're more than welcome to continue on your work session.
So Sylvia, I have an update on the master plan process. As you all witnessed tonight, you established your steering committee, so that's a big accomplishment. That means we can move forward with scheduling a steering committee meeting so that they can then start to help guide and direct staff further with next steps. I will let Sylvia speak to the draft survey that was sent out in the last couple of weeks, and any comments that she has on that.
Okay, great.
Kelly, is it on the,
I couldn't find it.
top?
No, I don't think it's in the, I don't think it's in the
I
document
know
file.
Cameron said he sent it, but I couldn't find it. But leave it to say, as far as the process goes, we did get this out. Kelly got it out. I got it out a second time. We received a lot of excellent comments. I sat down with Lynn.
Yeah,
And we reviewed all his comments. I got from the Conservation Commission chair, really excellent comments there. Member of the senior committee, excellent comments, incorporated most of his comments. Actually, today, I basically tackled the deputy police chief.
That's a lot to tackle.
In a nice way, and sat down with him a little bit, sat down with, other staff that sort of walked into the planning department, and I just wanted to take advantage of that. So I've got it to a good draft. I feel it's an excellent draft. There'll be more conversations. You are a struggle with getting in touch with anyone from the Heritage Commission. I have been promised phone numbers because we also didn't hear any response there. But I probably will actually tackle John next. But what our plan is next is to check in with all our new members of the steering committee, get the draft to them, talk to them about next steps. What will that look like? I think you've all been given a somewhat of an outline, but just to review, once we set up that first meeting, we want to, actually you heard some of it tonight, and some of your questions, what worked well, what doesn't work well in the existing master plan, what's been accomplished, those sorts of things. But also looking at a time frame, because Mike Malaguti challenged us, and so did Jake, with a 6-month laughable timeline. It's a year and a half is about what you're looking at, and that's a good, quick timeline. I've seen them much worse. So to get that moving, I've sort of outlined the first 4 months, and that includes like getting by the end of July this draft survey into a final survey form and getting that out. What will that look like? So, and where will it go and all those things. So accomplishing all that work, we'll want some guidance. We have a lot of good ideas already, but we want some guidance. We want to be involved with Old Home Days and getting volunteers from this group and from the steering committee, from different departments, and to have a table at that event. I know it's multiple days, so we want to have a presence there because it's not just about sending out a survey, it's about hearing from the public, and you have to go where they are, and that's your beautiful event, so we want to be there, and that's going to take a lot of organization. So we've got that going on. We want to create a website, so I'm going to use my team to create a website. I think I showed Kelly the example that our most latest, we're working with the town of Chester. We're doing that on a shoestring budget, and so we want to do that, continue that sort of work. It's excellent work, it's effective, it's quick, and so we want to create a website dedicated to the master plan, and it actually is using GIS story maps. It's the quickest way to do it. It's very nice. So if you're curious, you can go to Chester, Town of Chester, and look at their master plan process, and it'll link you to their website. We want to figure out a logo because we want people to recognize, oh, this is the Londonderry master plan. So is that going to be a big green apple, or is it going to be something else? I don't know, but we'll want those sorts of initial things happening. So we've got outreach, survey, logo, and the website. So a lot to happen the first few weeks here. And by the end of July, when I see you next, and I'm not sure when that will be actually, maybe the first meeting in August, I hope to showcase these things to you so that you'll see real progress, and we'll start talking about who's going to come volunteer at Old Home Day. And so that's kind of the fun stuff we have in store. Lots happening. Any questions from the board?
Board?
My career has been spent in marketing, so if you need help with either website or logo, let me know.
Oh, yes. I'm signing you up.
That is good.
Cynthia, sorry if I missed this, but who will be coordinating the meetings, the initial meetings, and then just to kind of get the steering committee up and running?
Kelly and I will probably work together to get it running. And I have two people on my staff that I'm going to utilize, Suzanne Nienamer and also Tammy in our office, and they will both be instrumental in moving it forward. Because I can't do all your planning stuff and your master plan, just like Kelly can't. So I'm incorporating them, I'm bringing them on board. So initially, Kelly and I will probably establish that steering committee, and I'll bring them on. We're thinking we will do both virtual meetings as well as in-person meetings, maybe some hybrid. It really depends on where these folks are at. But to be as efficient as possible, it really is easiest to do virtual meetings. We can also present a lot of material that way in an easy manner, but we also want to, meet people in person. People are desperate to meet in person, so we're going to just do a little bit of everything, really. I hope I answered your question.
Absolutely.
So just to add, after tonight, Sylvia and I will send an email to the steering committee and propose a couple of dates in the very near future for that first meeting. That first steering committee meeting will handle the organizational aspect, so nominating or choosing a chair and vice chair, and then we'll get right into scheduling next meetings for the steering committee, and then what specifically we want to cover through the process. So.
Great. Anything else from the board?
So, speaking of marketing, this is your cover of your master plan. We've all seen this now several times tonight. And I'm going to guess, so Jason, if you're interested and you want to do something, you want to suggest something to the committee, I am thrilled if you want to take this and run with it. Also, if you have a chance to look at Chester's, our website for Chester's master plan, any input you might have. So, and if, you know, all along the way, we're going to be wanting input from the board. So if you have specialties like Jason's, really excited to hear about it.
I'm thinking a picture of a highway exit.
4A?
Yeah.
Yeah, like the exit sign.
Yeah.
Six master plan.
Yeah,
And then
the arrow.
Yeah, exactly.
It says Londonderry underneath with the arrow.
The sign in the shape of an apple.
You must
Sylvia, don't look so concerned.
You must be from New Jersey. Everybody, when they find out I'm from New Jersey, so what exit?
No, exit 20, they have it.
Oh my God, it's just an
the
old
Tilton
joke.
exit 20. You see all the people that live there. They have.
Yep, they got
they
the
have
little
a bumper sticker on their
Well,
car.
and
What
that
exit
in
is
30
exit 20?
that in 32.
What exit is Loon? Excuse me, 32?
I don't
32.
know, but they have one.
There's a
too.
whole bunch of those.
Yes, the
Yeah.
exit 32.
Yeah.
But anyway, but I'm kidding. An apple is nice.
Are we going to use 4, 4A, or 5?
Oh. How lucky are we? We got 3.
Yeah. Cool.
Before you adjourn, can I just add one more
Sure.
comment?
Sure.
And as long as you're done with any input on the master plan stuff that we just covered.
Sure. I believe so. I got a thumbs up.
Okay. So it's no secret that I'll be going out on leave in the near future. I will be working likely through the end of this month. However, this is probably my last hearing with you guys until a later time. So just wanted to make you aware, and I look forward to watching the master plan process and all of our other progress from a bit of a distance, but still being someone in the know. So.
Well, congratulations and best of luck.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Get as much sleep over the next couple weeks as you can.
Isn't that true?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Kelly.
Spoken from the men in the crowd.
All right. Anything else from the board? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second motion. So I have a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Approved. Thank you. We are adjourned.